The following is a presentation of iRacing on PTR TV. We'd like to thank all of our channel partners for their support. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast. New Atlanta Motor Speedway. The words just cause every driver to go into a mass riot worth of anger because this was a driver's favorite track. Now it is a pseudo super speedway. 1.5 mile, 35 feet wide, 28 degrees of banking in the corners is the new Atlanta Motor Speedway with more grip than you can ever fathom. We've seen winners of all shapes and sizes here. We've seen people that don't typically have success find success in this new configuration, and I have a very strong feeling we'll see that again here tonight. Welcome everyone to PTR TV, where we do present a comeback series. Haven't had them on the channel in about a year, but we are back for an event here for the 100% Cup Series in their full-length races in their 2022 campaign, 2023 campaign for that matter, so excuse me on that one. It's going to be myself, Corey Silva, in the booth with Ande Grand Bush here. We're going to be covering all of the action. We may have some guest commentators later in the evening if the availability does present itself, but first off, welcome Andre. I know you kind of covered last night with me in a kind of pseudo makeshift fashion, but here we are for the full enchilada, 400 miles of this crazy style of racing at the Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Yeah, you know, I kind of felt like I knew what to expect coming into Atlanta, and then I hopped into D2 about halfway through, and a little over halfway through, and D2 was a little crazy. It was a little unexpected, at least for me, the way that race went down, and now I'm thinking, how are we going to sustain that kind of racing for 400 miles, nearly double the length of what we ran last night? It's going to be a challenge for everybody involved. I know I've talked to a few drivers so far, and pretty much none of them were looking forward to this race, but the one running theme was just, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a matter of survival, a matter of attrition, and of course, the kind of controversial point in the league this year has been the incident limit. It's something that a lot of people have been talking about because we've had a lot of drivers get, as we have dubbed, incidented out by hitting that 13X. And of course, that is largely due to the fact that this car can take quite a few hits and keep rolling, and then after you take enough hits, you reach that 13X, you get disqualified, and, well, it is 13 here at Atlanta, and I'm noticing that, at least as far as D2 is concerned, I think drivers were racking up those incident points a little bit more frequently than the plate races we've had so far this year. So it'll be definitely a wild one. And in practice, you know, we're kind of watching right now as these guys are out on track, just trying to get the car tuned in, get everything warmed up, get set up for the race. And it's crazy just in practice. I mean, look at this little pack we got right here. Dalton Mobley pushing the 97. He's getting a little bit loose here in practice. They're just feeling out their limits, I would say, and I don't know. I don't envy the drivers.
Yeah, these guys will definitely have a battle on their hands, and the guys who ran last night will have a little bit of a heads up on the field, but a lot of these drivers do participate in the iRacing official series and get the experience in that capacity. But what we do want to give you very quickly is our point standings of all capacities here. Oh, come back, don't go away. There you go. Our point standings here. 4 drivers have won races in the campaign this season: Delaney, Benefield, White, and Hall. And then you can see rounding down to the 16th person there, Chris James. So about 4 or 5 guys there within single digits of the cut line, but still a lot of racing and a very high probability of us having a surprise winner here on the evening.
Absolutely a good chance of a surprise winner anytime you come to a track like this. But here we have the team standings, and we've had a little bit of a shakeup since the last race. Looks like Stint Analyzer has moved up 2 positions on the team grid, and Silver Bullet, they didn't have a very good week last week, to say the least. They have dropped 3 positions, which I think is the biggest amount of movement in one race all season long. I've seen teams go up 2 positions. I've seen teams go down 2 positions. Silver Bullet the first to move down 3, so looking at a little bit of redemption here. It's still Apex at the top of the board, though, to nobody's surprise with the roster they have. And the Rookie of the Year standings, Jim Schofield still leading the way, but not by much, Corey. That is 2 points over Patrick Gitterin. I tell you what, those two every week, they seem to find each other on track. They seem to be very close in skill and in speed, so they're going to be putting on quite a battle for Rookie of the Year all year long, I would assume. But looks like practice is wrapped up, and of course qualifying has already concluded prior in the week, so they are heading straight to the grid, wherever they grid on this track. I actually not 100% sure, but let's go ahead and check out our starting lineup. Clayton Hoffman on the pole in that number 92. He's right alongside the number 8, Ralph Hutchison. First time starting on the front row in quite a while. Cameron Stone, P3, right alongside Alexander Russell in that 27 car. Row number 3 goes to Robert Anderson and Travis Kremborg in the number 12, and it looks like row 4 goes to Sean O'Brien Jr. for Apex and Lucas Hoitzma for LMM. Rounding out our top 10 is going to be Michael Christopher, filling in for Robert Miller this week in the number 15, and John Delaney in 10th.
At 11th place, you find Jason Taylor with Chad Gunningsmig to his outside. Matt Long in 13th, Matt DeCiani in the 14th spot. Tanner Marty was a factor in last night's race. He'll start 15th with Ken Ron, another D2 driver, in the 16th position. In 17th, RJ Root and Jeremy Miller in the 18th spot. 19th, you find Alex Mandesan, and then just aforementioned Patrick Gitter rounding out our top 20.
And just outside the top 20, Derek Heitman in the number 76 is going to roll off 21st. Kyle Ammon had a lot of success last year in an up-and-down race last night in D2. Cody Bird qualifies into the race for the first time since Daytona. He's 23rd, right alongside Blake Giglio in 24th. 25th goes to Matt White in the 48, and 26th goes to Jim Schofield. Again, currently leading Rookie of the Year standings. Alex Murray in the 22 car is going to be P27. Chad Sanner rolling off 28. Running out our top 30, Brandon Pierce in the 38, and Tracy in the 33 is going to be 30th.
It looks like they're giving us an extra pace lap so we can take our time on this. 31st, Pat Boucher. Adam Benefiel in the 32nd spot. Thought he was going to miss the race, but just made it back in the nick of time. 33rd, Mark Padgett. He hit everything except the lottery last night. Starts 33rd here today. Chris James in 34th. And then rounding out our field, Dalton Mobley, Randy Drumhiller, Devin Medeiros, and then league admins on the caboose here. Kevin Steele, and last race winner at this very speedway, Damaris 00 Hickenbottom.
Damaris going for the last to first challenge, and I kind of find it interesting. The drivers who have kind of opted to start towards the back and not really post a qualifying time, you know, they're not generally the drivers that start towards the back, so that's kind of fascinating. But we do have the Sunshine Boy race details. Open setups, of course, as it has been for this league pretty much since its inception. 13 incidents and 7 sets of tires on the wall and 1 on the car for 8 total. There is stages, of course, stages at 60, and I believe actually 160 is going to be stage 2, not 185. So stages at 60 and 160.
Do you mean I screwed up stages again?
Perhaps.
Let me check. One of us is right, one of us is wrong. Announcements thread, 160. Gosh darn it. We're not past 11 Eastern, so we do have to protect our integrity of language there. So there it is, that. And our keys to the race, still looking for a sponsor for this segment. Hint, hint. Mini plate track, so it acts just in the same. Avoid the big one or big ones as they occurred last night, and limit the incidents. We saw guys blinking out like Christmas trees. And we have the same incident count, actually a smaller incident count, and a race that is 100 miles longer, 150, I believe, actually. So definitely need to have your incidents in check. Keep the car running in clean order. But we're coming through 3 and 4 here. at the Atlanta Motor Super Speedway, Admin Motor Speedway, whatever you want to call it. Some just call it the Nightmare Track. I think that pretty much wraps up the mentality of just about everybody in this race, minus probably the 00. But the pace car is going to soon go to the safety of pit lane, and by all means, it is the safest place you could be with what we are about to see. 92 of Clayton Hoffman. He is getting ready to head into the restart zone to get this race underway. Hutchison to his outside. Barney has the flag in hand, and we are racing in Georgia.
And away they go, 2x2 all the way back, but it was the inside line that got a pretty healthy jump. They got about 3 car lengths on that outside row, and that gap is just extending as the outside is not quite formed up like they would hope. Definitely don't have the numbers up there. So the leader is not having to block 2 lanes. He can just run the bottom comfortably, and right now everybody just trying to sort out where they're going to be on track. I don't think the aggression levels are going to go too awful high too early, but again, I've been proven wrong on that statement before. But Hoffman leads the first lap of the night. Cameron Stone in that purple and gold number 57, definitely a unique paint scheme for Cam Stone. He is currently P2, and Robert Anderson, we've talked about Robert Anderson quite a bit this year, and it looks like we're going to be talking about him even more. He's currently on that final step of the podium. What is that, a Caramello paint scheme? I can't remember the last time anybody's ever mentioned a Caramello, but apparently Cam's a fan.
I'm older than you, and I have absolutely no idea what it is, so all interest put into whatever that is. Of course, Terry Labonte in the Toyota, just still getting used to that concept there in third. Hutchison back to fourth. So you can see here on the outside, Alex Russell trying to make the outside work. So this aspect of the Speedway kind of backwards to what the reality is, and I say that in the sense of in the real world we saw today, if you're watching this live, of course, at the outside, actually the preferred lane here around the Atlanta Motor Speedway, but here in sim, at least as it currently stands, the inside definitely is going to be where these guys want to be. The outside, even with the pushes, struggles to keep that momentum in check. So you'll see that Russell is kind of struggling to make something happen, but he will try his hardest to make that happen with the push from Travis Kramborg, if we're butchering that. Looks like, who is that? Lucas Hoitzman with an alternate Pepsi scheme here on the evening. Oh, Nitro. Oh, no, it's not. There's another Pepsi car here, just to confuse me. Michael Christopher and Nitro Vanilla Pepsi. So actually, that sounds pretty tasty. Might have to go to the store for that later.
I tell you what, Nitro Pepsi is, it's divisive. Some people love it, some people hate it. I tried it. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm on 3 hours of sleep, and I spent the entire day racing in real life, so I'm going to be stumbling like that all night long, so get used to it. But I did try Pepsi Nitro back when it was new, and it's very interesting. It's kind of just like flat Pepsi, and luckily for me, I like flat soda, so it wasn't terrible. But if you like the carbonation effect, you're probably not going to like Nitro Pepsi. But we do have the 2 Nitro Pepsi cars, and I think they're going to try to find each other on track. There they go, the 07, the 15. Now, these two worked together quite a bit, as well as Blake Giglio. Last night in D2, they had the opportunity to get a little bit of practice working in the draft together and exercising those teamwork exercises. And we'll see if that can come into any use tonight. If they learned something last night, they can help them on their way to the front today. But right now, it is all Hoffman out front. And with the stage being at lap 60, I don't know for sure what the fuel range is, but I would assume, Corey, they can make it to stage 1, correct?
Based on what we heard last night with our guest commentator, Jeffrey Souza, we had roughly a 60-lap run in the end. He said as long as you have a full tank, which naturally everybody does, I think you should be comfortable making it, and particularly those in the middle of the pack where you're really only running half, 60% throttle. The guys up front, if Hoffman, leads a significant portion of this, he's going to be full throttle, maybe in a more precarious position, but should potentially, I think everyone should be fine. But what I do want to point out is we have our top 32 all compiled in this pack here. Then we go back and we have our, if we go back to the early 2000s, you had the old guys. You had the Dale Jarretts, the Bobby Labontes, the Terry Labontes. They always ran in the back, about 5 or so seconds behind the lead, just kind of evading the carnage. And that's where we find Drumhiller, Steele, Boucher, Mobley, Medeiros, Hickenbottom, and Tracy just kind of waiting and trying to, in all reality, not even worried about damage. I think they're just worried about keeping a 0x as long as possible.
Yeah, definitely want to be thinking about that incident limit early and often. If you rack up points now, then you're going to have to be walking on eggshells for the rest of the race. You're not going to have anything in the bank, and we all know that with these super speedway races or pseudo super speedway races, say that 3 times fast, the intensity and the incidents tend to ramp up towards the end, and you tend to see a little bit of an influx of cautions. So you want to have some points in the bank when that comes to pass. And if you drive safe now, you'll have some, but you definitely got to be careful with the bump drafts, because sometimes you pull up somebody's rear bumper, you think you're giving them a healthy shot down the straightaway, you're doing something that's beneficial to the both of you, and then you get a 4X on both ends. You get one, they get one, and well, that's just not good for anybody. So you got to be very cautious early on. And one thing that's really kind of surprised me here, Corey, is that we're 11 laps in. We've not really gone single file. We have 2 very distinct rows all the way back.
Let's go 3
and now
wide.
3 wide. Jinx, you owe me a Nitro Pepsi, I suppose.
Yep.
But yeah, 3 wide, 2 rows deep now, as Alex Van de Sant is going to get trapped on the high line. He's got to figure out where he's going to shuffle back in, because as we established last night in D2, 3 and 4 wide, you can do that through the quad oval, no issue. It's when you get to the corner that suddenly that 3 wide becomes a little bit terrifying behind the wheel. And luckily, Alexander Van de Sant able to find his slot in the high line, just a few positions back from where he'd prefer to be. But as I was saying, Corey, just 2 by 2 all the way back. They're not going single file. I don't think I'm seeing a whole lot of patience here.
Yeah, not at all. And you know, one thing that I do hope that they do implement here on the service is, after the first race here at Atlanta, the drivers complained. I mean, drivers complain, would you ever believe that? And they did actually paint lane markers all throughout the turns as somebody peels off to the inside. That's a snap-on machine. They did actually paint lane markers throughout the entire turn, and I think that would actually help these guys learn their spacing a little bit easier. So maybe that'll come in a patch in time, as it has come in the real world. But that's going to be Robert Miller, I believe, to the outside of a 3 wide very briefly, but that has already fizzled back in. But you know, at this point, Andre, as a driver who is in this pack, what are you trying to learn right now? You know, who has what your car can do? Are you just kind of trying to have fun? Like, what is the mantra of you know, racing this aggressively so early into a 400-mile race?
Well, you know, there are stages, obviously, and so that is an incentive to race hard early and get out front. But that stage isn't coming for another 60 laps, so I don't really know what is enticing these guys to drive so hard right now, other than they just want that track position, or maybe they feel comfortable and confident where they're at. Maybe, you know, this 2 wide looks crazy to us up in the booth or to the fans in the stand, but if you're a driver behind the wheel, maybe it's not so bad. I don't know. But we do have a new leader of Cameron Stone, who is now actually getting surpassed by John Delaney, so yet another pass for the lead.
And Russell,
as they nearly go 3 wide. Russell trying to make his claim now up on the high line, maybe a little bit too high, getting out of the draft, not quite getting a push from that number 12 of Cranbourne. There's no way we're saying that name correctly, but I mean, we're doing the best we can. John Delaney now with the help of Cameron Stone. I could probably write a novel about the history between Cameron Stone and John Delaney. They have been friends, they have been rivals, they have been neutral, a little bit of everything between these two. But I think at the end of the day, they're both the kind of drivers that they're focused on the here and now, they're focused on the race. So whatever did happen in the past, it doesn't matter. If they can link up and work together and it benefits them both, they're going to do that. So I would not be surprised to see Cam try and help John Delaney in this situation. But no, number 12 is going to take it 3 wide for the lead. The 27 of Russell getting shuffled out of the lane. He's into that green outer barrier.
And
he's sponsored by Quaker State.
And he has a long way to go, and they will have to funnel 3 wide, at least another, well, actually, maybe he could squeeze in right here behind, believe it to be Hoytsma or some Pepsi-related vehicle. We have a 3rd Pepsi car on the evening. What is this nonsense? Pepsi's. That's Hoytsma. No, Giglio, excuse me.
Too much Pepsi. See, that's my team. The 15, the 07, and the 16. I had no idea they were doing this Pepsi thing. I'm taken aback just as much as you are.
Nitro, is it zero sugar? Is that even a thing? I don't know what the variant is, but it's a black Pepsi car, so be it as it may. Isn't Soda Wars in a few weeks? Isn't Soda Wars in like 2-3 weeks? So kind of going out of the I think they're kind of taking the cards out a little bit early there, but perhaps we'll see what happens. But meanwhile, where's RJ Root come from in that number 45 BRTV? Toyota Camry here, giving another channel a little bit of love here, no problem doing that. But they're giving a little bump draft there as we try to go single file for a brief moment, but that's Tanner Marty in the dark green machine. He's trying to go up to the outside, give a push to Alex Murray in the 22. Van de Sant in the purple and white car will also give a little push to that outside as Delaney and Stone drop like a stone on that inside lane. But look at the surge that Delaney got through the center of the corner. Now that may have been draft, or it may have been you know, some handling, because you know, handling does slightly come into play here. We talked last night, and guys say that after 30 laps you do want some fresh tires on there, and we are getting to that point where handling will kind of start to overpower the draft just a little bit.
Absolutely. As the tires wear, that handling is going to fade. And, you know, as Jeffrey Souza kind of alluded to when he was in the booth, depending on your setup, the car could either get tight with tire wear or it could get loose. And I don't know about you, I think I would prefer the car to get a little bit tight, because if you get loose and you spin down the track into somebody, you're going to be the cause of the big one. But right now we're riding on board with Alexander Van de Sant, and he is currently pushing that number 29 of Tanner Marty. Now, Tanner Marty, last night in D2, he was pretty much the sole responsible driver for pushing the 77 of Dalton Mobley to that Division 2 win last night. He linked up at the bumper. He never looked back. I don't think he even questioned whether or not he should try to pass Dalton. He just, I mean, he did what a teammate does. He pushed him straight to the checkered flag. And I think that proved two things. Number one, guy's a team player. Number two, he's a heck of a pusher. And I think these guys, if they watched D2, if they raced in the race last night, they know that Tanner Marty's a good pusher. So reputation tends to matter quite a bit at these super speedway races. And Tanner Marty, well, he's kind of worked his way into a reputation, for better or for worse. He did get into a few scuffles. He even admitted himself last night that, you know, a few things happened that he wasn't proud of. But when you're driving aggressive, when you're driving hard, sometimes those incidents happen. And I think what matters is you don't repeat those incidents and you keep that speed. So we'll see how his race progresses. But the number 12 of Kremborg still leading the way with RJ Root behind him now. So the 45 in P2, and then you've got Miller in the number 30, Jeremy Miller, trying to keep his position on the podium. But look at this, Corey, that inside lane that dropped back a ways a few laps ago. Now they're staging another run at it. Looks like John Delaney, with the help of Cameron Stone, is going to get up to third place and try, if he may, to get a run on the leaders, but it's going to be tough.
You can see here, only in fourth gear. So I'm going to be curious to see if that is I'm not sure what the gearing limitations are. But I'm pretty sure last night they were getting into fifth gear. Let's go and scope on our race leader, get us idea of that. Oh, fourth gear still. So that's actually quite surprising to me that we are not hitting fifth, but that could be a regulation with the gears that the super speedway package mandates, or that could just be handling, and you know, you're kind of not having enough revs to pull fifth gear at this juncture.
Yeah, definitely could be something with the setup. I know that these teams have been messing with the gearing primarily. I mean, when it comes to building a setup for a super speedway race like this, the gearing is going to be one of the most important things that you're going to deal with, and that has been kind of the talk in the garages, everybody trying to figure out what exactly is the best. Now, in sim, you can still adjust your gearing ratios here and there. You have that option. Whereas in real life in NASCAR, they're mandating certain gear ratios that you have to run, and I believe that is something that will be coming to iRacing eventually. So that'll kind of change how things race. But for right now, you are going to see those little oddities where we might be at a track like this and they only get up to fourth gear, or maybe we go to a track like Phoenix like we did a few weeks ago and you see them shifting all the way down into third at times. So the 5-speed transmission, for everything it's done, for better and for worse, it's definitely been interesting. That is one way of putting it. That bottom lane not quite able to get the run they want to get.
Yeah, we do have some audience in chat here. Your best pal Dan Field saying that fourth gear sets are kind of the name of the game. They are very strong here this week, and restarts actually being done in first gear, which means when you have these engines, you'll really have to watch the wheel spin. As we saw, as we have some dooring there, Delaney and Kremborg pushing the realms of luck there off of turn number 4, but luckily the St. Patty's vibe still in the air, apparently, allowing them to get by. Because the last thing you need is 2 leaders wrecking the field when we're still in pack formation, and we still have that is 30 drivers encompassing this lead draft here, as we are just now halfway through the stage. So lap number 30, still green flag racing, no cautions. We've been pace lap formation, 3 wide, but the skill of these drivers and probably the fear of these drivers with the incident limit keeping this thing clean and green here at the Atlanta/Admin Super Speedway.
Yeah, I gotta wonder if that little door slam was a 2x, a 4x, or maybe nothing at all. Sometimes iRacing can be forgiving when it comes to those penalty points. It's rare, but it does happen. And look at this, through 3 and 4, John gets a pretty solid run. He's gonna pull up nose to nose with Kremborg. Kremborg still leading the lap, and it looks like he may pull away to the advantage through 1 and 2, but it seems like they just get these little runs down the back straightaway and sometimes through 3 and 4, but it's just never quite enough. That top lane is really formed up, and that number 12 is doing a great job maintaining that lead with the help of RJ Root. RJ's not a bad pusher either. You got to remember, back to some past plate racing performances, while Root doesn't have the most plate wins in the league, he does have a lot of, I would say, highlights on the reel of pushing drivers and definitely being aggressive at these types of tracks, which can lead to some success, whether it's for you or the guy you're pushing. Remains to be seen, but there is success to be found in that aggression. And right now, it's working out pretty well. We're a little over halfway through stage 1, and we're still 2 wide for the most part. We have not gone single file. And, I showed up a little bit late in D2 last night, and, there was a lot of cautions after I had joined, but Corey, maybe you can kind of fill me in.
Oh, boy. Let's hold our britches here for a second.
And they sorted out. I have no clue how Alexander Van de Sant saved that and got back 2 wide, but he did. But as I was going to ask, did we see very much single file racing last night early on in D2?
I'm not going to say early. Oh, actually, let me take that back. We had a situation last night where for probably the first stage, which mind you, the stages in D2 are shorter, about 40-45 laps, about a 7-8 car breakaway. They eventually were kind of swallowed back up to the rest of the field, but there was at least an attempt during the first stage of the first of the leaders to try and kind of, as I like to call, kill some laps. But that mentality has clearly not passed over from day to day. These guys going at it. Let's quickly bring up our race recap just for the sake of lead changes, and I clearly forgot to change a graphic between. That is my fault. 4 lead changes thus far, but that is, of course, only at the stripe. That does not account for the lead changes that have happened mid-lap, because that would be a much higher total, of course.
Yeah, we've had these guys jostling for the lead back and forth pretty much for the entirety of the 35 laps we've ran. It would be a much higher number if it accounted for that. Now, a few laps ago, John got really close to getting clear of the leader. I thought he might actually be able to take it, but then once again, that outside lane just pulled away a little bit, and John gets squirrely off the bumper of the 57, just a little bit too much coming out of the corner, I think, not lined up right on the bumper, and that caused a bit of a checkup. Now the 12 car is on his own here. He's trying to block 2 lanes. 45 is going to get a big run. He's got nowhere to take it, so he's going to give him a shot, and again, you got to be careful with those kinds of bump drafts. That can get you some penalty points if you're not careful. So here we go, and I got to wonder, why is it 3 and 4 where John Delaney is so fast on the bottom? I mean, he pulls up right alongside the leader in 3 and 4 every time, and then he loses it.
I think he's getting. We'll have to go on board on the quad oval with Delaney next lap to see if he's getting the pushes there. But I think to answer your question, Andre, 1 and 2, just with the fact that it has the quad oval, I mean, we're going to get geometric here. The quad oval kind of gives turn 1 a little bit more open of an entry, so it's actually a little bit easier on entry, a little bit easier handling. But turn 3, you're entering it straight, therefore it does require a little bit more turn, a little bit more handling. You'll see guys get tighter, have to back off to make that increased turn radius there for turn 3, and I think Delaney's setup must just be a little bit freer and allows him to get that run to be able to bite the bottom without burning too much speed.
That definitely could be the case. I mean, 1 and 2 being a little bit more open, you can carry more momentum on the top, and then 3 and 4 a little bit tighter, so the bottom being the shorter way around, it's going to be an advantage, and we see that advantage with John every single time he just closes in, but he's not spearheading the bottom anymore. That's actually going to be Blake Giglio in the 16. He's able to drop right in front of the number 6, and Blake has been working the lanes here, Corey. He was up high, then he was down low, then he was up high again, now he's down low. He's just been going wherever he can to carry the momentum forward. He's not really loyal to one lane or the other, and sometimes that's what it takes. If you want to move forward, you just got to go wherever the openings are and carry that momentum as much as you possibly can. Now he's at a point where it's going to be a little bit tougher. It's going to stall out a little bit. He's got John pushing him aggressively through the quad oval, but we've seen time and time again, it's going to take more than a good bump draft to get these guys out front, because that top lane is just so dominant right now.
Yeah, I tell you, as a teammate, I am actually quite awful in that regard, because I know that a lot of times you get your teammate, you're working with them, you can make a move, but you can't clear 2 cars, so then you have to get in that spot and make those decisions. There's a huge push from Delaney to Giglio here through the quad oval. Got to be really careful about that, because it'll definitely get you sideways, but he does a good job of it. But yeah, as a teammate, definitely you have to make those decisions. Do I help myself? Do I help the duo? Because if you help the duo, you may actually be hurting the duo by staying with your teammate in a position that you really shouldn't be. That causes a lot of momentum and position loss.
The more I think about it, we're on lap 40. And so some of these cars have to be feeling the effects of tire wear for certain. And you're going to feel that the most on the bottom compared to anywhere else on the track. So these guys that are down low, yeah, they can gain a little bit of time, taking that shorter way around the track, but they can't quite get on the throttle as early as anybody else, and they do have to lift a little bit more, which is going to stall out their momentum leading to the straightaway. That's why they're closing in on the corners and then losing it on the straightaway, because they're just not carrying the speed out. They got to lift longer. And you can see right there, bottom gets them a little bit of room. And they got to lift right there, center of the corner. They're just a little off the throttle, and that carries over all the way through the quad oval, all the way down the back straightaway. This is very much a momentum track. It's almost a little bit like an IndyCar race on an oval, Corey. I mean, it's not necessarily wide open, but it's very close, and just a little bit of momentum goes a huge way.
Yes, it does, and especially through 3 and 4, again, you could just see everybody drifting up there in the center, and that goes back to the point I had about you have to back off more, you have to put more wheel into 3 and 4. It really becomes difficult, and it really definitely shows the handling aspects of it, but at the same time, like you said, you have to keep your foot in it as hard as possible, really kind of test your skill, test your courage in the limits of what your vehicle can muster. Really puts you in a difficult scenario, because you don't want to lose the draft, you don't want to not give the best push that you can, but at the same time, your car is going to only be capable of performing so much. So at this point, I think we're starting to see the cream of the crop here at this point, and you can really see that inside starting to struggle. I think a lot of that due to the fact that handling coming into play, these cars tightening up, and they just need that increased radius of the outside, that momentum that outside can withstand. It seems like that inside really starting to struggle, so this actually is starting to be a little bit more akin to what we saw in real life.
Yeah, definitely looking a little bit more realistic by the minute, I would have to say. But, lap 45, and I'm going to knock on wood here, we've not had a yellow flag. It's been clean and green the whole way. We're only about 15 laps to the end of the stage, so getting real close to that first pit stop, and these guys have not been burning through tires, which I think is making things pretty simple as far as strategy, at least at the moment. These guys don't have to worry about, should I pit? Should I take tires? Should I not? Because it's been green. There's been no opportunities to pit. They still got 7 full sets on the wall. They're going to take one when we get to the stage caution, presuming it stays green. So that's, I would say, a little bit better than what we saw last night in D2, where I feel like a lot of drivers had some very tough decisions to make about what tires they could take, when they could take them, if they should take them. We saw one driver, I can't quite remember his name, he's not a regular, but one driver took 2 tires and almost was able to keep up with the leaders for at least a couple laps before it started to really show its age on the right side tires, or the left sides, I should say.
And the funny thing is I cover that series regularly, and I just did the entire thing yesterday, and I still don't remember, so that just goes akin to age and degradation there of my integrity. But Again, I am just very surprised that, Andre, you pretty much pulled at every single possible jinx string there to try and make sure that this does cause a caution before the end of the stage. But thus far, I mean, you can see the single file has managed to go all the way up to about 8th now. It looks like that's Hoffman. Remember, our pole sitter, he's actually back in 11th. And he is the one right now that is the first to start the double file. Actually, nope, that inside starting to surge. Bobby Anderson in the Kellogg's ride, along with Sean O'Brien Jr., has himself up in the top 10 or so right now. So starting to see some different people. And is that Cody Bird starting to surge up to the front of the pack now?
Cody Bird actually racing at a super speedway. Generally, you know, he's one of the drivers that likes to hang back. He doesn't like to be up in the mix, doesn't feel comfortable in the pack, but I don't know. I think having to sit out these last few races, not qualifying, lit a fire under him, and I don't think he cares. You know, he's just out here running in the field and actually doing a pretty dang good job of it, sitting in P12. And, you know, there's kind of the joke that Cody always finishes 13th when he races. Well, he's doing, well, I was going to say he's doing better than 13th, but there we go. He's falling back to 13th. Cody Bird and 13th. Name a more iconic duo. I can't get over that picture with the bag on his head. And yes, that is actually Cody.
Now we do have to, just for the sake of, you know, numbers and overlays, the admin had to kind of manipulate the numbers. That's what the name, that's why first name and last name is the same. But I think for Cody, it's actually kind of fun to say Bird. We kind of just ignore it for everybody else, like, you know, John Delaney says Delaney, but we just gotta ignore that. But for Cody, might just actually start calling him Bird. What do you say?
I say I must be having a stroke, because until you pointed it out, I genuinely didn't even notice it said Bird.
Yeah, because it's just kind of the nuance of, you know, to eliminate the numbers here, and iRacing kind of change their back end, you know, things you have to deal with. But I don't know, I just kind of find that a little bit humorous, but it's easy to entertain me, again, at this age in my life there. But lap 52, you can see, who was that purple car on the outside there, very near? That was actually Cam Stone, about an inch off the fence there through 3 and 4, so really shows, you know, when the handling here at lap 53, I'd be very interested to hear from these dryers, not the washers, the dryers, what the degradation of the tires is like here. Is it really looks like Cam Stone is, he bought a house on Struggle Street right now, and he's moving in very quickly to it, on board with him right now. He will keep it a little bit tighter of a line because we're on board, so he's not going to do what we talked about because he's on board with us right now. So we'll see if he can maintain a steady line through 1 and 2 rather. And the syndrome, commentator's curse, you bring something up, and as soon as you focus on it, it doesn't happen.
That is very true. But yeah, Cam, he migrated to the high line a few laps ago. I think he realized the bottom was kind of a lost cause. They tried lap after lap to take the lead from that low lane, and it just wasn't coming to fruition. It just wasn't going to happen. So he moved up top and sacrificed a little bit of track position to do so, but it may pay off in the long run here. But you know, if he's going to gain some positions, I think he's got to think about getting aggressive, because lap 55 out of 60, we've got about five and a half laps left in the stage, which is going to tick by pretty quick at this track. Again, the lap time's right around 30 seconds flat, 31 seconds. Those 5 laps are going to go by in no time at all. And for Kremborg, got to be getting a little bit nervous, because you've had RJ Root pushing you this whole time, and you've had Jeremy Miller behind him helping push as well, and neither of those drivers has been particularly aggressive or very interested in trying to make a move and take the lead for themselves. They've just been following this number 12, content to ride. But when there's a stage win on the line and potential playoff points that could be gained by winning said stage, I think the loyalty that the 45 and the 30 have had is going to fade. Those drivers, I think, are destined to step out and make a move at some point. And if you're the number 12, how do you defend against that?
Well, a little bit of a push. Those pushes through the quad oval, very, very dangerous. We saw about 3 drivers get into right rear hook situations by bump drafting in the quad oval. Now, RJ Root, definitely a very astute driver in the series, so I would assume that he would likely not make that mistake, but very easy to do nonetheless. So, but we'll see how important these stage points are for these guys. You can see the inside starting to form up once again. I believe that is Hoffman Nope, that's actually the 16 of Giglio. A lot of similar looking cars here, so we'll see how important these stage points, these playoff points are. Get one playoff point for the stage win. Is it more worth it to guarantee your car comes back to stage 2 in one piece, or is it more important to try to take advantage of a point situation? I guess that answer will be figured out in about 3.5 miles.
I feel like these drivers aren't even sure. They're probably weighing it in their head. They're thinking, okay, so stage points or potentially wrecking. Stage points, potentially wrecking. And I think really what's going to be the deciding factor is on the final lap of the stage. If they see a door open, they're more than likely going to lunge for it. But if the opportunity isn't clear and obvious, they may be more apt just to play it safe and take the stage points that they can get. But look at this bottom lane checking up big time. Blake Giglio falling.
Oh, there we go. Bobby Anderson. And that would count as the big one, at least. I'd say 10 cars. Kyle Ammon, Brandon Pierce, 26 machine involved. So we'll have to. And Ammon,
no, is Ammon stuck?
I mean, it hasn't rained here at Atlanta, but there may be it's either damage or there's a difference in terrain height here in sim, and nobody cares enough to help him, so...
Oh my goodness, he had to take a tow.
So I'm not quite sure where that one started, but I think Bobby Anderson was perhaps at the root of it. So let's, we're gonna try to queue up a replay of sorts here, and watch the Kellogg's ride on the middle of your display right now. He has that run on Delaney. 48 of Matt White, 3 wide, right-hand hook, Cam Stone, Hoffman, Van de Sant, Ammon, all getting kerfuffled in that mix.
Tell you what, Cody Bird just barely squeaked through there. That was pretty impressive. The 13 on the low side of the track makes a little bit of contact to the door, but other than that, he's able to get through. But
well, let's see what Bird saw, shall we?
So it is all going to happen up on the high line. Turn 2 of Atlanta. Imagine this happening right in front of you. Right along in the number 13 as we see a whole lot of smoke is what we see. A little bit of a door tap there, but it could have been a whole lot worse for Cody. The 48 sliding down the track. He's able to avoid him as well. And I tell you what, that's a whole lot of free positions for old Bird. Yeah.
And let's see. That will be the stage. So pit stops while we were replay scuffling there. Pit stops did occur, and Travis Kremborg did pit from the lead and retain said lead. Bird up to the 11th spot, so go him right there. Let's see if we well, first off, let's see if we have one to go this time. We do have the pseudo super speedway cautions here at Atlanta. So it does make interviews a little bit hard, because by the time we sort through the replay and cover pit stops and the guys exit the pits, they're basically already getting ready for one to go. And we do like to give them their sanity to kind of, you know, plan their moves, talk to their teammates. But we'll see what the pace car has in store for us.
I'm also noticing in all that chaos, I think Cameron Stone fell out of the top 10 in that stage, so no stage points for him, it would seem, and that was the end of the stage, of course. That caution falling as close as it was to lap 60 did indeed end that stage. Points will be awarded for wherever they were when that caution flew, and the lights do go off on the pace car, Corey, so it's going to be a relatively quick caution, and we'll be back to racing.
Yep, and that is Bobby Anderson making another pit stop, and I saw somebody else there going painfully slow there to the inside. Oh, Jim Schofield, our rookie leader, he is coming to the pits, and Kyle Ammon, he is still in the pit lane with a 2+ minute repair and or tow, as is Clayton Hoffman getting an extended tow. So I would imagine, I mean, it's hard to say because the damage that they took didn't seem that hard. I'm very curious as to what happened to Ammon there. I know sometimes that the grass may be slightly above the surface level of the pavement, therefore the rear tires couldn't make contact, or it could have just been that significant of suspension damage. The world will never know unless he pops into the infield care center, but thus far he has not, so we will get stage 2 underway, and we'll do stage 2 with none other than temporarily loud engines. Hope you enjoyed that temporarily loud engines segment. If you have a better name for it, let me know. But I kind of like having that little spoof name for the time being. But lap 66, these guys haven't missed a beat from what they did in stage 1, still in that pace lap formation. I do see a slower car. Kyle Ammon did re-enter the track 2 laps down. It will soon be 3. And speaking of things that will be 3, I think we are going to be funneling some 3 wide upon the passing of Kyle Ammon, unless he goes to the quad oval apron. But that'll make turn 1 kind of nervous. Oh, he's going to go down to the quad oval apron. And hopefully most everybody clears him by the time we get to turn number 1, because he's going to... No, he's going to... Serious respect there. Keep it on the apron through the entire corner.
Yeah, definitely the best play, I think, to make. If you try to get back up on track, make it 3 wide, there's no telling what's going to happen. We did see in D2 last night a few issues that arose from lap cars going 3 wide and the narrow corners kind of pinching everybody together in that little funnel. And so Kyle Ammon, he sacrificed some time there, but he probably looked at it under the lens of, hey, I'm already numerous laps down and there's no need to cause yet another yellow. So stayed on the apron. He was able to get back up on track. Hopefully his car's not so damaged that he can't stick in the draft of the lead pack, but we'll have to wait and see. I think he is falling out of the lead pack strap, and I do see some substantial damage to the right side of that car. The left side's looking all right, but the right side, not so much.
Maybe it's a level of detail thing or just not showing up on stream, but never know. iRacing does its weird things, but we do still have our second pack. They are not as, actually, for that matter, I guess we really don't. You know, the guys that were significantly far back, such as DeBaris Hickenbottom, Tracy, Steele, they still are to the end of the pack, but they are still within the same train. So I don't know if they're slowly trying to stay back or if they are just going to try to stay in a snake formation to the end of the field, but that's at least where they stand for the time being. And the top lane up front is trying its very hardest to create some differentiation between itself and the inside, trying to get some people just to, again, as I like to say, kill some laps off and try to just make sure that we don't have any issues. But that inside lane thinks otherwise. That black and red car, that's Matt Long. First time we've really seen him in a position of interest here this evening. Currently 6th with that huge push from Patrick Gitter through the quad oval here. That 97 finally starting to spread his wings here as we get into the stages of stage 2.
And again, just like the first stage, that outside lane seems to be prevalent. It seems like that's where you want to be. You can get a little bit of a run on the bottom. You can maybe maintain your position, but actually making a move for the lead from the low side just doesn't seem to be realistic, at least at this point. Now, obviously, as the race goes on, the track temp is going to change. The level of rubber on the various lanes is going to change. So who knows? Currently, the track temp is 112, which is actually 1 degree higher, I think, than we saw at any point in D2. And man, 112, Corey, that is... I mean, these guys got to be driving nice out there as we go 3 wide. Looks like Blake Giglio on the outside.
That's one of your guys up there.
Yeah, that's I'm not going to take credit for him, but there we go. He's able to get clear, and that was a brave move by Blake Giglio and John right there. I don't know how they made that stick, but hey, they gained a few positions, and now they're going to have a shot at maybe making a move for a podium.
Yeah, so that just goes to show what some cars are capable of and what some drivers, like, here he goes. He's found some comfort in that third lane, which, I mean, you have to have comfort to run that third lane because there's absolutely no space to spare up there. On board with Blake here, he's going to have that push from behind. That is John Delaney in the smiley helmet, and it looks like Jeremy Miller may have said, nope, you ain't going up top. I'm going to take the third lane from you, and Giglio's not going to like that little factoid as Matt Long goes to the inside, but here he comes. Nope, there's a little space, there's a little bit of space. Just not quite enough, but he was looking for it.
we've kind of joked about the if gap car meme before on the channel, but you know, Blake's driving style really is, if there's a door that is open, he is going to go for it. He comes from the dirt racing side of things on iRacing, and as a motorsports fan, he's kind of a bigger fan of dirt racing than he is NASCAR. And in dirt racing, you don't necessarily think about the logistics of the move you're making. You don't sit there and think, okay, so I'm going to work him over for 3 or 4 laps, and I'm going to try to run this high line and build up momentum. No, I'm going to go full send all the time. And the second this guy moves half an inch up the track and I see a gap, I'm going to sail it in there and pray for the best. That's what you do in dirt racing. And I think that old Blake Giglio kind of brings that mentality to the Cup Series. And we always see him with a high level of aggression. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I've said it before, I'll say it again. These super speedway races, you've got to have aggression. You have to get out front. If you don't, and you're just riding around to the back, go 3 wide again. Is that Bird?
That is, I don't think that's Delaney in the middle. That's Gitter. No, Delaney up top, Gitter in the middle, and the 15 of Michael Christopher on the bottom. They remain 3 abreast here through 1 and 2. Sean O'Brien Jr. in the 24. He is trying to squeeze some space there on the top of the racetrack. These guys definitely not afraid of it. I'd rather go 3 wide through 1 and 2. 3 and 4, these drivers are having a lot more issue, especially through the center of the corner, holding their line, especially a tight line. So hopefully if they keep the 3 wide, at least do it in 1 and 2, where everyone seems to have a little bit more car control, as Christopher in the vanilla Pepsi car, a little bit of wiggle through the quad oval, I think off of the push of Ralph Hutchison, who's been rather quiet in tonight's efforts.
Yeah, you know, Ralph started on the front row. He dropped back a ways pretty early on, and you're right, hasn't made a whole lot of noise, but that could be intentional. You know, maybe he wanted to put down a good qualifying lap, wanted to see where he stood in terms of pace, and then once the race started, he's just not been too concerned with staying up front. He knows it's a long race, and while I personally value aggression at these super speedway races, some drivers see it as just the opposite. They see a bit of a relaxation, a little bit of tactfulness, where you're just trying to make sure you keep the car clean until the end and play it out via strategy. Some of those drivers love to do that, and it may just be that that's what Ralph Hutchison is doing. That low line has pretty much dissipated to nothing in this Corey. There's about 4 cars down there. Everybody else is on the high line, as we have a very aggressive second place Alex Murray trying to get around RJ Root, just bobbing and weaving, looking all over the track, trying to find an opening to make that move, but the opening never came. And now down the back straightaway, he is going to tandem draft him into turn 3, push him out a little ways, and very likely drive it down the banking, get a run through the quad oval. Here we go, big run. Where does he take it?
Oh,
well, he takes it straight to the bumper.
Right through the center of the quad oval. And we did talk about this last night. The quad oval here at Atlanta, for the first time ever, is actually a set of corners now. It used to just kind of be a tri-oval of sorts that just visually look like more corners, but in this style of racing, that quad oval acts as 2 individual corners. So when you do bump through it, definitely creates a precarious position. And speaking of precarious positions, let's go 3 wide. Long to the outside, Giglio to the middle, and I believe that is Gitter to the inside. Indeed it is. And it looks like we will siphon ourselves down to a more reasonable double file formation. But again, midway through stage, not even midway, but a fifth of the way through stage 2, whatever the mathematics are, and still racing as hard as we have been. Worth noting, you know, the stage ended lap 60. We're going to 160, not 185, going to 160. So there will be a pit stop of some sort at some point during the stage, presumably around, I'd say, 110 to 120. We would probably start expecting pit stops, and if we do stay green, should be very interesting. Of course, luckily we are not using the new NASCAR rule of pit road starting in turn 3, but that actually makes it a little bit more challenging peeling off the pack here under green in turn 4.
And that's a good point. I was going to mention in stage 1, these guys could get away with
Nelly.
They could get away with all that 2 and 3 wide because they knew they never had to get down pit road. All they had to do was get to that green and white checkered flag at the end of the stage. Now they got to get down pit road, and this is a notoriously difficult pit road entry. It is honestly I mean, if this was real life, it would be straight up unsafe how crazy the pit road entry is. And that's exactly why NASCAR changed it in real life, like you alluded to. In sim, though, those rules don't exist. So we still got this crazy pit road entry that they have to contend with, which means at some point or another, they're going to have to get single file. They're going to have to sort this out where they're all just kind of running a train down on the bottom by that white and red line.
Dropped in the corner. And, why? Sorry.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Look at that helmet. Look at that helmet. John has been running this helmet for 3 seasons, and I can't get over it.
I mean, Happy Delaney, I know Happy Harvick used to have the smiley face pit board. And again, let's push through the quad oval because that's worked out well every single time it's happened thus far. But, you know, someone to Delaney's skill level, he may be able to make it work when, you know, a driver of a lesser capacity, we won't throw names out there, may not be able to do that move. But, you know, definitely is still risky nonetheless, as Giglio really found a narrow hole there to get to the outside just in front of Matt Long. He took that hole and was able to make it happen. Maybe later in the race that hole would be shut a little sooner, but this early in lap 86 and 87 into a 260 lap affair, these guys will kind of cut some slack for everybody's benefit. But I mean, not very much slack has been cut here because again, we have about 5-6 drivers that are running single file towards the front of the field, and the inside lane starting to fade a little bit. We are getting to that 25 or so lap mark in the sequence here, so the tires starting to fade, handling starting to become a little bit more prevalent, and as we saw in stage 1, once that happens, that outside definitely is the place to be.
And because I am not absolutely juvenile, I'm not going to point out the fact that you just said he used Matt Long to find a tight hole. In the meantime, they're still not quite sorted out at double file. They're trying to maybe get single file if they can, but there's just a few drivers that are dedicated to this low line, and they are not opening any doors for anybody to get down there when it comes time to pit. I believe that strategy could kind of come into effect here. So we got to go about 100 laps from 60 to 160, and we know that they have roughly about 65 laps worth of fuel in the tank, so they don't necessarily have to worry about fuel once they pit, and they have a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to when they pit. They could take an undercut, they could take an overcut, and we do know that handling does kind of take effect here in Atlanta, so I'm kind of curious how this green flag pit sequence is actually going to play out, because that could be a huge indicator for what we're going to see later in the race as well.
It will. I mean, we always talk about green flag stops. We talk about them quite regularly. But they very rarely actually happen when we do actually call them out. So it will be interesting to see if indeed they actually do come to fruition at this point in the event. But still 20 to 30 laps before that does happen. I don't know if it transmitted on Discord, but I did give you the losing horn there. Completely went over my head that I said something so inappropriate in still rated PG hours. So my bad on that. Capacity!
Oh boy!
Well, I couldn't come up with a joke there that fit the scene there, but let's go 3 wide. Delaney on the outside in turn 3. He's on the outside of a Pepsi sandwich here. Pepsi on Pepsi. Don't kill each other. Don't shake the cans here. Do 3 and 4 shaking cans. Of course, Corey, let's just add to the fire here. Matt Long giving a push to Giglio as Pepsi will separate. More Pepsi to the inside. May as well just call this the Pepsi 400.
I'll tell you what, Blake is lucky he was able to slot in on the high line there. He was in the sucker hole, and if things had played out just a little bit differently, he could have been taking the elevator straight down to 30th, but luckily he was able to slot in and save himself from losing too much track position. Only dropped a couple positions. He's currently sitting 9th. John Delaney, who he's been working with for the better part of this stage, he's up in 8th right in front of him. Tanner Marty, who we've seen up front quite a bit, well, you know, he's in 7th, and he is just a part of this very large train of cars that are just bumper to bumper, and now I think we're finally starting to see them sort out single file. The bottom lane starting to dissipate just a little bit, getting a little bit more out of order, and that top line forming up. So when it comes time to pit, most of these guys shouldn't have too much trouble, but I think communication and calling out your pit stop when it does come time, that's going to be pretty important as well. Do not want to catch anybody off guard. I've watched a couple races at Atlanta here this week, and I've seen a few bad pit road entries that weren't necessarily communicated very well, and it can lead to quite a few problems.
Yes, it definitely can. Now, Worth noting, Andre, we are past 1/3 distance in tonight's efforts, and only time we've said this name this evening has been on the starting lineup, and that's Adam Benefiel. He is only up to the 18th spot, started 32nd. We've seen him go from, 30s back of the pack in winning stages, top 5s in stages, but whether it's a intentional slow and methodical charge to the field or he's just gridlocked by what is in front of him, some slow progress by the 83, but still working his way up towards the front.
Yeah, we saw last night in D2 how he started 3 laps down, raced his way up to the lead lap, nearly to the lead itself, and then fell out of the session again. So hopefully better luck will befall Adam Benefiel tonight. We'll have to wait and see. It's not really been Benefiel's season. He has had some very big misfortunes that have struck him at the worst possible times, and he's just looking for that one race to turn the season around. And sometimes that's all it takes, just one good race. You get a good finish, maybe you get a win, and it just completely reverses the momentum of your year. You feel like Superman, you feel like you can do anything, and that confidence goes a long, long way. And while we were talking about Benefiel and some other things going on here, bottom lane formed back up, Corey, so not as clear-cut when it comes to pitting anymore if it stays this way. This time, the bottom lane is going to be spearheaded by John Delaney. He's got the number 16, Blake Giglio, right behind him, and Blake himself has, I believe, the 48 pushing him. So not a bad group of cars. Obviously, all these guys pretty talented at plate tracks, but I don't know. That bottom lane just does not seem to be able to really go anywhere, no matter how much you bump draft or what kind of talent you have. That high lane just seems to be preferred.
Yeah, we just, it comes down to multiple things. Of course, the geometry of the track will definitely change the lane of choice, but at the same time, as we know on the plate track, setups will definitely come into play, where you do have some drivers who will run setups that are more akin to being the leader. Some drivers will run setups that are more akin to following. It all kind of depends how you trim the downforce. Delaney squeezes his way up to the top of the racetrack. So if you have that car trimmed out, it'll be fast in a straight line by itself. But once that car that's trimmed out gets into the pack with dirty air, it will lose its grip, as does the black Pepsi car, who is, I believe, Giglio. So handling starting to come into play here as we are about 40 laps into this fuel run. But definitely it does change who can command the pack, as Matt DeCunha in the 6th spot right now. He started 4th, or rather he started 14th, up to 6th in the 4. A lot of number duplication there, but good run for him, as he's been a big competitor this season in 100%. I don't recall him being last year, but I know he is in Division 2 and has had some good runs. So him, Gitter, Kramerborg, some guys that we don't see up here in Division 1, if ever, having some solid runs, but still early in the race, and we expect those veterans of the series to make their presence known before the night comes to a conclusion.
And as we have hit just lap 101, only one caution for Kaz so far tonight, and everybody's still scrambling for position. Not a whole lot of separation through the field. Green flag pit stops are on the way, but before we get to that point, how about we throw it to temporarily loud engines for just a moment.
And back here as Andre stepped away just for a brief moment, but we'll make sure that you get some coverage in here. We do hope you like the temporarily loud engines segment. You can see the single file has carried on here for quite some time, all the way back to the confines of about the 12th or so position. Matt White trying to make that inside lane work with the push from Ralph Hutchison here, as pit stop should be right around the corner. We are here on, we'll pull up the stint graphic here on one of these drivers to get a scope here. Lap 46 for Ralph Hutchison here, so the stage ending at lap 160, that'll be 53. So that window of for pit stop should be opening, if it's not already open. Will be open essentially in a few laps to try to split this stage right down the middle, which will facilitate these guys running single file, makes that pit stop easy. But as we've talked about many a time, pulling off of turn number 4 in a big pack situation is going to be very, very difficult. And unlike Daytona, where you have a big, essentially a big runway to slow the car down, you're basically pulling right off the apron. You got about maybe a couple hundred feet of concrete, and you're right there at that pit lane cone.
Yeah, and I think splitting the stage in half is really going to be the dominant strategy. I think that just kind of makes things simple for the drivers, and you see them do that quite a bit in these events. But you never know. If you're somebody a little bit further back and you want to gain some track position, maybe you try to link up with your teammates, do a little bit of planning, and you try to get a little bit of an undercut, not just for yourself, but for your whole team if you can. Or maybe you take the overcut. Who knows? It's kind of an unknown. Again, this track is a little bit wonky with the way that it plays out with strategy, because it is very much like a super speedway, but it also kind of has elements of a mile and a half where handling and tires do kind of matter. So a bit of a question mark for me personally.
But yep, lap number 110 on the boards here, and the single file again right back to Matt White. I don't know if Matt White is just trying to make that inside lane work, or if that is just he just can't find a place in line as that vanilla Pepsi car. I think that is I keep forgetting who they are. We've talked about them so many times, the Pepsi theme, and I keep forgetting who they are. But just to the outside of such Pepsi vehicles, none other than Benefiel. He was 16th, and now he's up to 14th, and there goes Ralph Hutchison. He's trying to recoup some spots. And just look at him. We talked about Delaney having that surge to the inside lane. Hutchison trying to dupe it as he gets to the inside of Delaney through the quad oval.
Yeah, but again, that bottom lane, you know, he makes the move now, but he may have that momentum stall out, as the bottom is notoriously difficult to use, it would seem, tonight, and RJ Root's still leading the way. Way up the road on the outside lane. Tanner Marty just to the outside of the number 8. And that bottom lane, I think right now they are pretty much dedicated to where they are. They really don't have much of an opportunity to move up the track or really change their game plan, as there is a wall of cars preventing them from moving. So if you're on the bottom, may not be the fastest, but you're going to have to try to make it work.
And that is the case here. As again, pit window is open. We have eclipsed the lap 50 mark in the stint, and I know, Andre, we were talking in our private chats before the race about what we expected to see here on the evening as a little action towards the second pack. That is 30th on back. We just talked about the fact that we expected this to be an incident fest based on what we saw last night. We expected guys to Christmas tree out, and these guys, the Saturday night guys, Damaris kind of talked about this during one of his interviews last night. He said we are going to be in a much better position on Saturday night. The Saturday night guys, you know, they have a little bit more respect, more experience driving together, and I know we've seen some rivalries form even in D1, but the fact that they can run in this configuration and still keep it in one piece goes to show the skill. I didn't quite get the, you know, as they call it, the SOF. I didn't quite get it, but usually the SOF of this race, strength of field, the average skill level, using the iRacing official scoring system, usually over 4,000. And just for the scope of knowledge, my singular I rating is 3,000. So the entire average of this field is 25% better than my skill level. That is what we were playing with in this series.
Yeah, it's really kind of ballooned over the years. I think the competition level going up has kind of paradoxically attracted more drivers who are highly skilled because they see competition on an equal level. They see a bit of a challenge to strive for, and of course they join the league, and then slowly but surely the strength of field just rises naturally over time, and it's kind of what happened. I mean, I remember back in the Galaxy days, the strength of field was anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000, and then you know, it just kind of crept up a little over time, and by now, you know, we've got Coke Series drivers joining the league occasionally and running races, and we've got other Pro Series drivers. Blake Giglio, for example, he's not a Coke Series driver, but he is a pro on iRacing on the dirt side of things, so just a whole lot of talent to go around, and you do see a lot of uniformity in these plate races early on, and I'm not necessarily surprised that it's not been a wreck fest yet. But I stand by my earlier point there, Corey. I think by the time we get to the final stage, things won't be so cold.
Yeah, and it is a point, especially with the Coke drivers. There actually has been a lot of contention with the fan base here as Delaney and White having a kerfuffle off of 2. They do wind it up, but there has been a lot of contention with even the Coke Series with the fan base here, with how short the races have been. iRacing is trying to really make them an as seen on TV product, at least in my humble opinion, and now the races basically no longer than 150 miles. So a lot of those higher skilled drivers, they want to battle more. They want to be out more and test their skills in a more endurance format, which definitely has facilitated some growth in this series, as we are now pushing lap number 60 in the stint. So this is longer than I thought they would stay out, because remember, stage on lap 160, we are on the second end of the stage. So the longer they stay out, the fresher the Goodyears will be for the second end of this stage, the second half of the stint, however you want to verbiage it. So I guess that is what they're going for. They're going to try to preserve those Goodyears so they can fight harder for the stage win, as Delaney tried squeezing a 3 wide on top of DeCunha there. Slightly broke up the draft there, and DeCunha will be stuck to the inside, as I think we have more guys peeling low. This could be a pit lap.
Yeah, we definitely could see the barriers start to break down, and the driver's going to come down pit road, and that'll, I think, open the door for a lot of guys to follow. But the question is, who's going to be the first domino to fall? Well, we don't know, because that lap, nobody came down pit road, and I'm with you, Corey. I'm a little bit surprised at how long they have stayed out. Again, last pit, 61 laps to go for Alex Murray, and they got to be getting pretty close to E, I would think, on that fuel gauge. And
unlike what Patrick believes, E does not mean end. He means put some more fuel into that fuel cell and put 4 more Goodyears on the tires, on the rims of that vehicle. But, you know, the one good thing that this does do for us, Andre, is it tells us what the fuel stint really is. Because, you know, a lot of times we have guesswork. A lot of times drivers won't tell us legitimate numbers because they're trying to protect their own assets. And their own skills and their own research. So a lot of times we don't know until the last guy peels off. Some chat is referencing maybe this time by. Well, your guess is as good as ours. Survey says no. We are getting some insight in our YouTube that not going to pit till about lap 70, which again, that will split a 80 lap stage into a 50-30 run, which again, more fresher tires on the surge for the stage win, but it also puts you in the position where if you are a 10th, 15th place car, you give yourself less laps to play around with, and if you don't get the best run and you need to draft up to catch up to some guys, the later you pit, the less time you're giving yourself to recover from any mistakes.
Now, I'm not very good at math, but I think 60 to 160 is more than 80 laps, Corey.
So, math. So, for some reason, I had there's one faux pas. I mean, I have many faux pas as a commentator. As we are slow off of 4. Here we come, dive into pit lane.
And that is a huge gaggle of cars. Looks like
we got Root.
Number 30.
Oh, as I mistakenly changed the camera there, we got Root, we got Murray, we have Miller, Hutchison, DeCunha, about 7-8 cars on pit lane here, and now that has created a little separation in the lead pack, so that will offer the opportunity for a little bit safer entry, presumably, for some of these guys. Top 4 will stay on circuit, and the second pack will stay on track. But what this gives me the opportunity to do, is start to see what the pit lane delta times are, because that is a statistic that I quite fancy. So we'll test that out in just a second. But let's go back to our leaders and see if they're going to peel off this time by.
So no surprise here, Delaney and Giglio still bumper to bumper. Nope. I think when these guys pit, they will likely pit together, but it's not going to be this lap. What about the second pack here? Let's see exactly what happens here. But the pit stop was 14.6, and the overall pit lane time was...
caution!
Oh, now this is... we
have a chicane sequence on the front straightaway here, and that is the exact reason you don't pit until the fuel cell's empty, because you never know when that is going to happen here. So we will cue off the replay that has not had to have much use as of late, and we're focusing on the 96 because he was the most dismembered vehicle there. Contact with Russell. Was that just a whoa, 27 went for the Tony Hawk grind move there, and then geez, jeepers creepers, trying to save some religious terminology there because I don't want to get yelled at. But all right, let's focus on, first off, that was pretty gnarly there, but just the wreck just happened everywhere. Like, I don't know where to focus on this. 24 of Sean O'Brien comes through. The rest of the pack comes through, and they're not really slowing down. Now they're slaloming. I guess I'll get one more look at it if I can. I'm just trying to figure out what to even look at. We'll go chopper cam. Actually, here's what we're going to do. We are going to go up a little bit, and let's try to find like Cam Stone a little bit further up here. Adam Benefiel pit there in the 83. When he pit, it caused a lockup. You can see the smoke coming from Cam Stone here. And then I think that just ended up being a massive chain reaction deal. And
we talked about it. You've got to communicate those pit stops really well. Now, I'm not in the iRacing session, so normally I would be, and I'd be able to see if anything was put in text chat or hear the radio chirping. But that, to me, just kind of from a spectator standpoint, that looked like a poorly communicated pit stop. And it caught Cameron Stone off guard, and unfortunately, that domino effect led to numerous drivers taking heavy hits. In the 27, well, he's pretending he's a Superman because he was playing some Tony Hawk right there.
Yeah, and I just realized, why didn't I use my Barney, the spotter? This is called being up till 12:30, waking up at 6, and being old. My Barney the Flagman cam there, because that probably would have showed that wreck quite fabulously, but a little bit too late for wear there. But we are on 1 to go. Now we are going to have a wealth of wave arounds there, because of course everybody pitted, and those who were caught a lap down by pitting early will get the benefit of the wave around here. Root and Murray, Miller, Kremborg, Gitter, Hutchison, DeCunha, and Russell. Of course, this is something that you will not see in the real world on green flag stops, now that they have to basically be in the pits for 1.25 miles of this racetrack. But luckily that rule not implemented on the service yet, but there's a patch on Tuesday, so you never know.
Yeah, we'll hold out hope, just like we're holding out hope for lights at this track.
Hey, I said I'm trying to not get in trouble with the service here, so there's a lot of technical issues there, and they're working very hard, and hashtag soon.
Best part is, I'm pretty sure the last Atlanta night race was 2014, after the track had been on the service for 6 years.
Yep, this track out since 2008 on the service, but there's a July night race, so you never know. But pace car is in Giglio. Look at that on the inside, Andre. That must make you feel all warm and gooey inside. 3 Pepsi cars on the inside here, all working together to get a restart here for still in the stage and just tiredness, but green flag in the air. Words.
Yeah, we'll see if they can get some stage points. I know I told the drivers things are not looking good for LMM in the old team point situation, and things were getting a little bleak. So, you know, I told them do what they got to do to get some points and salvage what they can, and well, they're trying to do it. And they got John Delaney right there in the mix too, trying to help out. And John, you know, no stranger to LMM. He drove for the team for a brief period, got some wins, and did us proud. Now he's helping out the we'll call it the Pepsi Brigade, trying to maybe get some stage points for himself, possibly a stage win. But you know, John, he's going to be a driver I've got my eye on tonight. We're always watching John. We know he's a talented driver, defending league champion. But John's got a habit of running up front for the majority of the race and then pulling some sort of bonehead move late in the race that takes him out of it. Back at the Roval last year, he pretty much led the entire race, and for some reason he decided to overdrive a corner when there was nobody anywhere near him, broke a toe link, and
absolutely
DNF'd.
Relentless there. But on that note of absolutely roasting drivers there, Matt White from the Infield Care Center, the 48 car, very interesting race there and a big wreck on the front, man. Was that what took you out of this thing?
Yeah, I mean, it was whenever it was coming to pit road. I mean, just they called it out kind of at the exit of turn 3 there, or, you know, turn 3, and it just was way too late, and then everyone was way too early, like, you know, on the binders way early. So gave me like 2 minutes damage, and that was kind of that. But I was really happy with the car this week.
Yeah, definitely. You were starting to make your move, trying to make that inside lane work, but the outside seemed to be the way to be, especially later in the run. But, you know, kind of akin to NASCAR making that apron rule here. Do you almost kind of wish that it was implemented in some hodgepodge way to avoid situations like that? Or do you think the drivers should be able to, you know, just kind of communicate their way around those kind of problems?
I mean, you know, I guess on the front stretch it'd be a little questionable, but, you know, you know, it's really narrow, so going 2-3 wide. When you got a car that's just rotating that well, you really take a lot of guys by surprise when you can stuff it down there. And they're not expecting it when they slide up, and that's what kind of happened in that first wreck as well.
But being Atlanta, I mean, did you go into this race kind of with confidence, or did you kind of go into it like a Talladega race where if you wreck, but you want to get the best race out of it? What kind of mindset did you come in, and did that change after how the night kind of ended for you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, confidence is really key here, and knowing what to do, when to do it, how to do it is really important. You know, you can take advantage of guys that aren't necessarily as good. You know, the wreck, you know, after that first one, it was kind of, with all the checking up and stuff, I was like, well, if we're in it, if we're not, we're not. So just unfortunate end of the day, really.
All right, man. Well, we'll wish you luck at wherever we are next week, because I already forgot this. Coda. Well, what kind of where do you stand in Austin on the road course? What's your confidence level heading in there?
I'm just gonna look for a top 20. I'm realistic, but I enjoy the road racing in this car, so I'm looking for a top 20 next week. I think we'll be able to manage that really well. Hopefully the field thins out. So
yeah, we'll see what you can do there, man. Sorry on your run, but you'll get them next week.
All right, thank you so much, Corey. I appreciate it.
That is the 48 of Matt White there. Again, fighting words in a polite way of sorts. Just, you know, pit road issues, communication. You know, it comes down to a strategy call, Andre, because, you know, you don't want, especially if you are up front, you know, there are certain situations where you don't want everyone to know what your pit strategy is, but at the same time, you kind of have just a due justice to protect your competitors that you do have to let them know. So it's kind of finding that balance of kind of keeping secrecy with your strategy, but also the gentleman's agreement of not killing everybody.
Yeah, you know, that's a good way to put it. The gentleman's agreement of not committing mass manslaughter. But at the same time, you know, if you're a driver like Adam Benefiel, you are going to try to just maybe get an upper hand. You know, you're going to try to get the field caught off guard. And I know that Adam, he's the kind of driver that's going to take every advantage he can get. And if you do it right, you know, you come down pit road, you announce it really late so that, you know, the drivers know what you're doing, but not quite soon enough to actually really process what's happening. It can help you out a lot. It can actually gain you some track position. But if you mistime it, or if the drivers behind you are just a little bit too close, like Cameron Stone happened to be, well, we saw what happened. So you just got to be careful. It's a very valid strategy, I would say, but it's a high risk, high reward, and well, we saw the high risk play out in full right there. But this little bit of separation we're seeing is kind of interesting, Corey, because we're coming off a full-blown restart, and yet we're seeing 2 packs form, which is something that took a long time early in this race to actually happen. And now, just a few laps into this green flag run, and already we're seeing 2, maybe even 3 packs.
Yeah, and you know, at an awkward time for this to happen as well, because we are within 20 laps of the stage, barring, you know, being the guy who literally gets the stage wrong every single time. It is on 160, right?
I do believe so, but I've also slept 3 hours last night, so I could also be wrong.
So, no, I'm looking at it. It says 160. I'm looking at it. My graphic is right because you corrected me on it. So we're at a point where, you know, this is Atlanta. This is not Talladega, where you can take it 4 wide modestly, comfortably to gain a bunch of spots in one go. Getting through the pack here is a much slower and arduous process. So, you know, I would want to start shuffling it up and, you know, picking them off one by one to try and put myself in that spot. I wouldn't want to wait till the very end, but also look at who is in the 7th position right now.
Yeah, the defending winner here at Admin Motor Speedway, Damaris Hickenbottom, he's definitely benefited from the incidents, as has Kevin Steele. So really living up to the Admin Motor Speedway name here. We got Damaris and Kevin, the 2 league admins, working together, trying to get into a draft and maybe gain a few positions. They got Tanner Marty in front of them. We've already talked a little bit about Tanner Marty and how aggressive he's known to be at this track, and we know he's got a good car. So if they can maybe link up and work with him, that'll be a big benefit there. But a huge checkup, Randy Drumhiller going 3 wide as he goes a lap down. That's going to cause a huge bottleneck, and luckily everybody able to get through that time. I know Randy's been having a bit of a rough night. I kind of heard some chatter in another Discord about some incidents Randy's been involved in, and we didn't quite catch it on camera, and I didn't see it from my perspective, but not a fantastic night for the 44. Luckily able to avoid any incident there. And right now, what I will say that did is it kind of bunched the field up. Those 2 packs we saw, well, it's not really 2 packs anymore, Corey. That's just one giant hornet's nest. Cameron Stone towards the tail end of this hornet's nest. We haven't really seen him since his initial involvement in that caution for cause, other than, of course, that brake check from Adam Benefield. He got a little bit of camera time then, but he hasn't really recovered track position-wise from that first caution. I got to wonder if maybe he doesn't have a little bit of damage that's kind of throwing out the parachute whenever he doesn't have cars in front and behind to help with the draft. That does tend to happen sometimes. We're going to go 3 wide again with Randy Drumhiller. And luckily they do it on the straightaway where it's a little bit easier to do so. But as they get to the corner, they're going to stay 3 wide. Randy doing a good job keeping it to that Quaker State green wall, which still just looks so out of place. I still think we're at Kentucky half the time, but there it is.
What is Kentucky?
Yeah, you know, what is Kentucky anymore?
It's a Ford parking lot, essentially. And from what I've been told, between Ford and Amazon, Kentucky is actually making more revenue than it was in rent off of its assets with a parking lot than it was actually making as a racetrack. So, I mean, Chicagoland, I guess, take note, keep yourself in a configuration, but just rent out your assets. And but Chicagoland at least is actually hosting a Supercross race this year on the tri-oval grass, so it's actually getting its first usage in nearly 3 years. So, you know, on the note of that random little factoid there, we are closing in on 10 to go in the stage. Matt Long, he was one of the ones making a surge to the inside of the racetrack upon the conclusion of stage 1, and he is going to have the ever-aggressive Tanner Marty in the 29 machine trying to push him along and make that inside work, along with Hickenbottom there behind him. So 4 cars there, but they are about the 8th position in line, so quite a ways to go. It will take some drivers up front pulling down and trying to facilitate the inside, but focusing back up front, it is a Pepsi train 1, 2, and 4, and then the lone Coke car in 5th. So just using pure odds, Pepsi in a very rare set of circumstances beating Coke here today. Actually, is that a Coke car in 6th? Pat Mouchet, I believe. So yep, 2 Coke to 3 Pepsi, so odds definitely in the Team Blue thus far.
And just quickly, you mentioned Chicagoland hosting the Supercross race. The real-life Supercross race right now running concurrently alongside this league race on Peacock, and I got to watch the heat races at least before I had to jump into the booth here. And I just want to say, any Hayden Deegan fans, you might want to tune in, and if you haven't already, go back and watch the first heat race of the 250s tonight, because my goodness, that is something that'll be talked about for quite some time, and I'm sure the YouTube videos are already in production. All of the Supercross commentators are screeching into their mics as we speak. It was a good week in Supercross. I can't wait to watch the main set.
Semi-spoiler, but not really. Did he actually have success, which his sister does not do?
No, he committed manslaughter.
We're going to have to talk about this on a break, because now I am quite curious, but because I don't know if you're speaking figuratively or metaphorically or literally.
Well, nobody died, but I mean,
he was rather ignorant in his actions, I guess we could say generically.
Yes, we'll put it that way.
All right,
and it was his teammate too, so we'll talk about it on a commercial break. But
or if people in chat are interested and they don't want spoilers, we'll talk about it in stage 3. We'll figure that out. But we are starting to turn up the wick here, and the single file train that existed 10-15 laps ago no longer is such a situation here. RJ Root talked about we needed some guys on the outside to peel down to the inside. RJ Root got the memo on that. He will use the push and facilitation from Kevin Steele, but Kevin is a little bit too far behind to give him a push, but RJ going to try to use a little bit of side draft, which certainly works here. In this aero package, let's go 3 abreast here. Squeeze in the middle here. That's Alex Murray in the middle. Tight confines, old tires here. 3, almost 4 wide, nearly contact off of 2.
I cannot believe they've kept it composed as long as they have. We're weaving up and down this straightaway. The number 22, Alex Murray, he's stuck in the sucker hole now. He's got the help of the 12 car behind him, but they're going to go 3 wide again. Jeremy Miller on the outside of the 22. Tell you what, Alex Murray not able to catch a break over the last few laps. He can't go low, he can't go high. Now he's finally able to slot in. They go 2 wide, and I'm sure that was a heart-pounding moment for Alex Murray, and he did a fantastic job. I'll tell you what, that is the worst feeling in the world when you get stuck in the middle. And you know that if you deviate from your line even a little bit, even on accident, you could be the cause of a massive incident. And somehow he kept it going and was able to not, oh boy, Alec, oh boy.
Matt Long deciding to change lanes very abruptly there through the quad oval and nearly 3 wide.
I don't know that he decided. I think he might have got a little help off a bumper there.
Well, either way, it was a lane change of massive quickness there, as let's go 3 wide, as I believe that's Ken Ron in the pink and yellow machine, akin to a fence there, as he wall rides to try to get out of the way. I think that was actually intentional to wall ride. Luckily everyone gets by without any issues there as we close in on 4 laps to go in said stage here, and let's squeeze by yet another machine. That's the 27 of Alex Russell. Is there 2 Alex Russells in this race? Alex Murray, Alex Russell. Yeah, Hoyt's behind the fence.
I think he got a little bit loose off of a bumper there. Now he's trapped down low.
Someone's in the fence.
I believe that's Murray.
Yep, 22 kissing the wall through 3 and 4. It lost a bunch of speed, bunch of time, and let's go squeeze it 3 wide once more. Adam Benefiel in the meat in the sandwich here. 17 of Mouchet to the inside. I guess.
That's not going to end well.
Bowley.
Incident points. No, he's back. Okay, it was a blink. Oh my goodness.
And I'm seeing more and more Coke cars as this race progresses. So it is a Soda Wars, pseudo Soda Wars here. That is the tightest.
Stone.
That is the tightest 3 wide I think I've ever seen that did not die yet.
Yeah,
and this is.
They give him time.
And this is this is out of stage territory too. That's all about 10-15. This is stage territory up here, and we are battling side by side for the lead. Root pretty much doing it by himself, but here comes Jeremy Miller trying to give him the push here, but Giglio has that push from his Pepsi compadre there. Lucas Hoytsman to the outside. John Delaney in the 6. He's really going to give a surge there. Clear the top 2, nearly clear the top 3 coming to the white for the stage.
So it's going to be the final lap of the stage. The Pepsi Brigade doing a pretty good job with the help of John Delaney. And, well, the Pepsi Brigade save for the 07. No, I'm sorry, is that the 15? I can't even tell my own cars apart. I believe the 15, a little bit squirrely, as he's going to go 3 wide back there behind his teammates down the sucker hole. He's going to drop a few positions. And for the final time, this stage, through 3 and 4, John looks low. That's a position he's been in numerous times tonight, has found very little success, but he might snag second away from Lucas Hoytsma, and he does. But the stage win goes solely to Blake Giglio in the number 16. That was a great move by John, though. He may not have got the stage win, but...
Now, here's a piece of questioning I have. Are they planning to... Were they planning that so that way they are 1 and 3 on the restart, presuming that the pit stops go accordingly?
That's a good point. You know, I can't imagine they'd want to give up stage points just to get a better starting position, but sometimes if you want to get linked up with the right driver.
This may be a little bit more arduous for you to say as a team owner, but do you think your teammates are witty enough to think of that on the fly either?
Oh, I mean, definitely they could think of it. I don't know whether or not they would value the point or the starting position. Now, obviously, from my perspective, I'd say I'm your team owner. I want points, please. Points pay actual money at the end of the year, so maybe don't give it up. But, you know, if they think they can get those points up later with an actual race win and, you know, getting a good restarting position is going to help them. And maybe that's what they did. I have no clue.
Yeah, we see it at Martinsville, but, you know, or tracks that are strictly 1 lane, but we don't usually see it here on the... Actually, I guess we kind of do see it on the plate tracks with choose cone coordination, but everybody coming to the attention of their crews here. 30 laps into the run, approximately, for most of these drivers.
Definitely didn't have to go as far on that set of tires, and now that they're going to be able to get 4 fresh Goodyears, they're going to feel a little bit better, but again, I don't think those cars were handling too awful when they came down pit road. So here comes our stage winner out of the pits. We'll see if he can win the race off pit road. That first pit stall always has a bit of an advantage, and I think he got beat.
Yeah, I believe Giglio, Hoytsma, and Delaney. So if that plan was a plan, it did not work to a fruition, but being team owner, who better to talk to than your stage winner? And we'll bling break into here.
Mr. Giglio, you got a copy?
How's it going?
Well, Blake, you just won stage 2. The car's looking pretty good, and looks like you and your teammates have been working together and working with John a little bit too. Tell me about your race so far.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. Started 24th, drove up there in stage 1. We got a good finish our stage 1. John was DMing me in the middle of the race, telling me some tricks here, and it's definitely helping a little bit. I think that we're gonna have a good shot to win this thing. We just got to keep it together for another 100 more laps.
And what's going to be the key to survival here and avoiding the attrition?
Yeah, I think just doing what we're doing. If we can stay together like we are, and when you control that middle, it's so hard for them to pass. So if we can get back to the middle, hopefully, eventually, that I think that'll be a key to win the race.
All right. Well, I think the lights are going to be going off on the pace car, and they do. So we'll put you back up with your team, but good luck with the rest of the race.
Thank you.
That is our stage winner. Break, whatever I called him there, is both of us kind of said this again in the prelude to the broadcast and our personal talks that we weren't fully on our games here today, so we expected the stuttering to occur, but we've done better than I think we both expected to do, so full marks on that. But you got 15 to 20 seconds, Andre. Give us the TLDR on the Supercross deal, because nobody said they don't want to hear it, and I do.
So basically, Deegan got side by side with his teammate. His teammate got a really good run through the whoops, and Deegan just kind of bam barshed him in the corner. His teammate didn't take too kindly to that, so his teammate hit him the next corner. Then Deegan hit him back. Then they hit each other on the straightaway, and then finally Deegan just stopped in the middle of the corner to get the right angle and just rammed his teammate off his bike. And then a lap later, his teammate was riding so poorly that he wrecked himself in the whoops and flew about 30 feet into the concrete floor. It was a bad situation, and for teammates, maybe not the best look.
Yeah, I just watched it there on the old Twitter tweeter there. So
Yeah.
definitely, I think hopefully we don't have a duplication of that of sorts here in the series. But we very well may based on how last night went. But Pepsi on Pepsi front row here. Start of stage 3, and teammates will get right down to the inside there. And apparently with John Delaney kind of being a pseudo teammate right now, he may have facilitated that as well.
Yeah, that definitely could have been. You try to coordinate these restarts as best you can because I think clean air is pretty important. I think if you're the lead car, you don't really have to lift, if any, through the corners, especially on the first few laps on fresh tires. Whereas if you're in dirty air, you're going to have to start lifting a little bit sooner. So obviously you want to be able to get linked up with your teammates, get a bit of a breakaway if possible. But what I find interesting right now is that Blake and John and all those guys, they're kind of rocking the bottom lane, which is definitely not the place to be. Well, they were rocking the bottom. Looks like Blake actually migrated to the top. John stayed on the bottom. So this is kind of what we saw last night in D2. We saw the drivers that were working together trying to control both lanes at once. So you'd have a couple drivers up top, one driver down low, and what that does is it means that, they've got John down low. They know that they've been working with John. They know they can trust John. So they don't have to worry about blocking that bottom lane because they know John's not going to get super aggressive. He's not going to do anything crazy as long as they're in communication. So they can just run their line. Oh, my goodness. Looking back from the 76 of Derek Heitman, that was a moment. I don't know if that was John or there's so many cars out here that look a little bit similar. But, yeah, that was John, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Delaney making space. And unfortunately for Kramerborg, the space was taken away from him.
4 wide.
Yep, let's go 4 wide because why not? But we do get back down to a more safe and sensible 2 wide situation here. But still 82 number of laps or so to go here. So still plenty of time here. But look at up front. We are kind of running, as Giglio said, he wants to have the single file train against the fence because that does kind of act as the best defense to the inside making the pass because you can't really do it. And we are going back upwards of the 13th, 14th position, committed to running the top right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we've seen all night. The top lane is just the place to be. I do want to point out Cameron Stone in that Caramello number 57. He's finally gotten some track position back. He's marched his way up inside the top 5. I believe he's on the lead lap. And it's taken him a while. He was involved in that first incident, and he just never seemed to recover in terms of track position. I think maybe having that caution for that stage, he was able to fix the last bit of damage that he might have had, and he's able to make some passes a little bit easier. He's got RJ Root in front of him, a former teammate, but no longer, as they parted ways at the beginning of this year. So hopefully there's, oh my goodness, a huge impact into the outside wall. The number 30, Jeremy Miller, is involved. Tanner Marty sliding to a halt. The number 4, unfortunately, getting tagged as well. And I believe it was John Delaney who took that hellacious hit at Mach 1 to the outside wall, and it was John.
Oh, he had the hospital wobble there. We'll see it here on replay. Well, the hospital wobble cued by the 97 machine. Oh, that was the Dale turn there. That was... Oh, that was not the... Phooey. This angle might actually do us some better justice. Oh, my God.
Whoa.
That was 2 Dale wrecks there. Jeremy Miller had a big lick there. And then as Miller went down the track, he kind of took out some other drivers. But let's get one more brief look at that.
In the words of Darrell Waltrip, I just hope John's okay.
And Jeremy, for that matter.
And Jeremy.
All right, so I just watch the push from the 97 here, and that in a Kevin Steele long sandwich there. Delaney really had nothing he could do. Big wobble, boom, and then Jeremy Miller, I think off the maybe even the 22. But as they're funneling down, you can see Mobley, you can see Cody Bird. Cody Bird there actually. What happened to Cody Bird there? As I know we're missing stuff in pit stops and such, but
I think he just lost it trying to swerve around him. But after we look at Cody Bird, I don't know if you can queue up an onboard with Tanner, or not Tanner Marty, I'm sorry, the number, what number is that? I think it might have been Alex Murray in the 22.
But look at Cody Bird there, just door into Jeremy Miller there.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know if Jeremy just didn't know Bird was down there, or what exactly was going on there. I almost want to take another look at that, because I'm a little bit baffled. Now, the 22 on board, this may or may not be the car. Let's see what he saw. Yeah, he just parted the Red Seas right there. I don't know how he got through, but man, oh man.
Yeah, we'll go back to live footage again. The short cautions here do make it kind of difficult to replay play for too long, because we'll miss some brief action there. But yeah, Cody Bird, that was kind of, I mean, they did nothing wrong, but they're both trying to merge on the track and then just door slamming each other into oblivion. So whatever that is what it is, because what else would it be? That's Shakespeare 316.
Sounds about right. But yeah, I mean, that could have just been a spatial awareness thing. I know after a wreck like that, you don't really have your bearings. You don't really know. Well, you know, you don't have your mental bearings or maybe your physical bearings on the car after a hit like that. But either way, you know, spatial awareness, you don't really know what's going on around you, and you're just trying to get back on track. And sometimes those re-entries are a little bit unsafe. But lights go off on the pace car, and tell you what, Cameron Stone's got a pretty good starting position there in row 2, and Kevin Steele, row 3, living up to the name of Admin Motor Speedway here. He is not having a bad run here in stage 3, able to avoid most of the chaos. And I'm looking a little bit further back too, Corey, and I'm seeing Robert Anderson, who took a pretty hard hit in that last incident, and he was also involved in an incident earlier. That car's still looking pretty clean. I don't know how close he's getting to the incident limit, but seems to be still in the game for right now. And the other admin, Damaris Hickenbottom, he's not too far back either. They're in 13th, which is formerly Cody Bird's position, but Cody dealing with a little bit of position loss after that incident.
Back to 22nd or so on the board, and still at this juncture in the race, I believe we'll see the status of Jeremy Miller, but at least have 30 on the lead lap still. Technically, John Delaney, after that, you know, super severe impact.
Track?
And on the lead lap, hashtag tank mode, still on the lead lap. If that thing has any speed in it, then this is basically NASCAR 08. I don't have the foggiest idea, but green flag in the air. And he's waving it like he just don't care, is Barney the flagman, and Giglio will get the run, trying to meet his teammate to the outside, does so with success. Derek Heitman in the best position he's had this evening. He is up there in that 76th third car on the outside, and brief 3 wide. Matt Long on the outside of a 3 wide sandwich gets back to, whoa, all the way top to bottom here. Whether that's a penalty or damage, not quite sure, but that was a interesting endeavor. Definitely damage. You can see the left front.
Yeah, both sides of that car are looking a little bit worse for wear, so probably trying to get that thing fixed up. He may not have even really known the extent of the damage until the green flag came out, and he was able to try to get up to speed, and he kind of noticed he was down on revs. That does happen occasionally. But we've got a battle for the lead. We've got the LMM boys up top, Giglio and Hoytsma, trying to fend off the run from Heitman and Stone, but I'll tell you what, Stone's getting pretty good runs down low.
Through the corner, teammate bump drafting. How does this make you feel? Through the quad oval.
Makes me feel like I'm about to see 2 junked cars, but, you know, we'll have to see.
And for the record, Jonathan Delaney does not have enough speed to stay in the draft, so we are not quite NASCAR 08, maybe NASCAR 07, which was slightly worse, but Actually, NASCAR 07 wasn't on NextGen at the time, so whatever. Put your EA Sports references in there. But the Pepsi car is to the outside. Pepsi has been slightly broken up because the other car, Michael Christopher, down to the inside. Is a lot of bobbling, wobbling, and squabbling through the quad oval here, which has been the name of the game. But unlike last night in D2, haven't seen any direct wrecks occur via quad oval bump drafting or hooking. So we still have that going for us at the moment as we squabble, wobble, and bobble down the back straightaway.
Yeah, a whole lot of wobbling, I will say. But look at that. Cameron Stone able to just barely take the advantage for a moment through turns 3 and 4. Again, seems like that is the only place on the track the bottom lane is actually faster, is through 3 and 4. And then you get to the quad oval, you get through 1 and 2, and that high lane is just undefeatable. Number 7 doing everything he can to try and push the number 57 and try to get him out front. Now, this is an interesting dynamic because Kevin Steele, he drives for Team Conti, but he owns Apex, who Cameron Stone drives for. Cameron Stone drives for Apex, but he owns Silver Bullet. So interesting dynamics going on there, but I think the end result here is that the 7 will have no problems working with the 57, and I'm sure... Never mind. I take it back.
Cam Stone, I mean, that is a little bit of a push, I think, from that was Kevin Steele on the Coke ride. He gave him a little bit too much of a shove there through 1 and 2. Everybody kind of staying their britches there, but everyone will have to go to the wash because we did not have a wreck there, so we will continue on as thought Hypen may have been trying to squeeze a 3 wide for a brief moment there, but again, those 2 Pepsi guys up front have that outside pretty much tamed. They are leaving a lane to the outside, but again, just due to the kind of guy who didn't have a compass who drew the wall here at Atlanta, it's really hard to run that 3rd lane. So they're kind of running that 2.5 lane, you know, blocking and holding that inside down tight, but not leaving enough space to make a move up on the top.
I'm just astounded that the 27 is on the track. He was on top of another car not long ago. Most realistic sim on the market, ladies and gentlemen, is the number 27 continues his way around the track, a little ways up the road to the next lap car, but the 2x2 battle for the lead continues on as the number 7 has actually managed to push the 57 up to nearly taking advantage.
Oh, jeepers.
Oh, no.
Oh, mother of jeepers.
They can't keep getting away with this. There's no way they keep doing this and it stays green.
I mean, the quad oval is the sketchiest part of the track. You don't have banking. You have 2 individual corners to navigate. Everyone's trying to fight with the red line rule. Everyone has, you know, it's just everything about it is just difficult to manage. And then especially when you have teammates here who are basically trying to unify 2 cars into one. But surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, as hard as the bump drafting is, I have not seen that 16 wobble yet.
Yeah, you know, he's been pretty stable, which is kind of the opposite of what we saw last night.
Louvers, there they are, if you've never seen them before.
And hopefully those are legal. I mean, what am I saying? I own these cars. They're totally legal.
They're from the 100% Cup Series supplier, Fender Swords, which is managed by, I guess, Damaris, right? So if anything's wrong, you'll hear from Damaris afterwards.
Totally didn't buy them from Hendrick, I'll tell you that much.
And, it's kind of the squabble and bobble wobble. Say that 5 times fast and say it in the same order every single time. I don't think I could possibly do that either, but those Pepsi cars definitely starting to scare me. But the Coke ride to the inside and Kevin Steele is hanging on there. He does have 2 or 3 other fellow Coca-Cola machines in the pack. I think one of them may have been decimated in one of the wrecks, but I see one there on the long shot there. I can't remember. I think it's Pat Moucher who's back there in the 27th spot. Still have the entirety of about 28 drivers within proximity of this lead draft. John Delaney is back there in 28th, still on the lead lap, but turning times at our, trying to get a scope, 30.4s up front. John Delaney 31.3, so about a 1.5 seconds as they are navigating by a slower car. 3 wide into the fence, but somehow we continue on. Trying to figure out who that was. They had a 4 in it. Gotta figure out who that car was.
Actually, I think that might have just been A4. There may be 2 4 cars on track.
Ooh, someone's getting busted if that's the case. Oh, all right, who is that? Mystery, please, please. Yeah, it's a number 4 car, but it's not a number 4 car. Gunningsman.
No, County's on the lead lap. So yes, Gunningsman. They are running the incorrect scheme. Hopefully,
ooh, we're telling.
That's just on our end. It could just be on our end. Maybe Trading Paints hasn't updated. For
speaking of Gunningsman, he had a set of issues off of turn 2. Luckily, he was by himself, so no further action required from it. But I think the leaders do have yet another. I think that is it's either Russell or Murray. I always get them confused. I think that is Alex Russell in the 27. He's going to squeeze a 3 wide here off a 2. He's riding the wall, which, I mean, that seems to be the lappers' way to get out of the way, is they just ride the wall and use the wall glue to keep themselves stable up there. I guess if it works and it doesn't cause a wreck, I guess have at it, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you can manage to do it and keep it clean, then go ahead. But, you know, don't get too aggressive. Otherwise, you might just be hearing...
Oh, man, they're showing us a black flag.
Definitely don't want to hear that at this point, especially with these guys getting pretty close to the incident limit. I would assume for a few of these guys, they've been involved in a couple of issues so far. We're getting a little bit later in the race. It'll get crazy.
Nah, I had the losing horde queued up, but that was actually pretty good. Speaking of NR 2003 spotter calls, can I tell you the one thing that NR 2000, I mean, there's many, but the one thing of NR 2003 that I wish they would carry over that probably would take 5 minutes of coding to do? When you are on the, when qualifying ends or the happy hour ends and then the race changes over, the spotter would always say, drivers to your cars, or it'd be some PA announcer. So that way when you're not paying attention at the end of qualifying, you knew, oh crap, it's the race, let me hit grid. Why doesn't iRacing do that?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I don't know why iRacing doesn't do, but...
How many times with me being a VR user that I take my headset off to get air to my forehead, and then I'm just checking my phone, and all of a sudden, oh crap, there's 5 seconds left on the grid, and then I end up being that guy. But if I just had a little bit of a, hey, get in your car, make life so much easier. Noted.
Just a little bit of NR 2003 trivia as well. The crew chief in NR 2003 is John St. John, who was at various points in his career Duke Nukem and Sonic the Hedgehog. So if anybody wondered why that voice may sound a little familiar, that is why.
Sonic the Hedgehog, oh my god, give me the memories come back. And again, there's the Pepsi duo up there, and we'll just go down to the inside. Let's see if Kevin Steele can equally scare us with his bump drafting endeavors. My initial assumption says no, but nope, there he goes. Let me give you a bump draft on the entry to the corner. But look at the amount of space he gives. And again, the inside is harder to maintain. He's going to give a nice shot there. Nice little shot. Now ride right there on the deck lip. He's giving him a lot of run, a lot of kind of runway to recover. And Hoytsma certainly is not doing that to Giglio. I'd almost wonder what the temp situation is for the 07.
Yeah, I mean, temperatures, we haven't really talked about that tonight, but they could be of concern. If you're going to be linked up with somebody bumper to bumper pretty much wide open, you always got to keep an eye on that dashboard, see what your temps are reading. And
our temps are 0 because they do not transmit remotely, unfortunately, so one can only guess what those would be, but
that's just that next level Fox censoring. They don't even got to blur it anymore. They just hacked our eyes. They just hacked our eyes not to see the data.
We do have 2 slower cars that will be in our future for lapping purposes, and I think that is going to be Delaney and Mouche. Actually, add a Alexander Russell into the mix as well, I believe, just in front of that. So this could get a little juicy, and not in a way that is favorable to anybody. But hopefully this works out. So we're going to catch him in the quad oval entering turn number 1. Big pack of vicious Hornets versus predatory creatures here, and they'll get by one of them. And is Hoytsma trying to get some air there? It looks like he's going for a 3 wide, but he's actually just getting some air. No avoiding it. We're going to squeeze a 3 here into turn 3.
Yeah, they're going to have to go 3 wide, at least momentarily. And we've seen it end not so well before as they work their way through the quad oval. John's just going to have to try to hold his line.
Nelly Campstone, 4 wide for a brief moment. Oh, into the fence is Gunningsman. Potentially he was. If not, he was right on it. See Delaney in the 6. He's up there now. He has full draft, so, I mean, he's not going to be able to keep up, but his car is going to be faster than it was using the massive draft wake that he is in via the competitors around him. Slightly into the fence there. Now, just taking a look at the rest of the standings here, he is actually the free pass position right now. Kyle Ammon is the second car 1 lap down, so if Delaney can stay where he is, and look at him actually, now that he's in a full-blown draft, he's keeping pace, at least for the moment anyways.
Yeah, you know, that is the case sometimes when you have damage. Your car is not really good enough when you're at the tail end of the field, but if you got cars in front and behind, it's enough of a draft, there's enough of a hole in the air that just kind of carries you through and you can actually keep up. Now the issue is that you can't really make a pass in that situation, because the second you step out, that parachute deploys, the thrusters turn off, and your car just plummets through the running order. So not that it really matters. He's not really going to be jumping out to make any passes when he's a lap down. He's just going to have to try to hold on to that lucky dog position and hold out hope for a possible caution to get the lucky dog, get some damage fixed up if he can, because for right now he's just not in a great position. But I can't really say, Corey, that many of these drivers are in a great position, because I mean, this racing has been so chaotic. There's so many laps where I'm assuming there's going to be a huge pile up, that things are going to go sideways, and they do go sideways, but somehow they don't wreck. They keep getting away with it.
Yeah, and I'll bring up the race recap. Omit the fact that it still has the Division 2 graphic. I was planning on fixing it during a commercial, but these guys aren't wrecking, so I can't really have commercials to fix said graphic. But only 10 lead changes, which it doesn't sound like a lot, which, I mean, I guess it's really not, but it's not akin to the racing that we've had. It's not showing us that we've had boring racing. It's just, it is really hard to pass the leader. But it doesn't seem to be hard to race in the middle of the pack, as RJ Root trying to make that inside lane work with the 12 of Travis Cranborg, who has recovered from, I think he was one of the ones who got unlucky with the pit sequence there, but he has recovered back up to a 4th to 7th, 8th place position, depending on how the draft works. And look at Damaris up there. He was about 13th, 14th. He is in and about the top 10, depending on how the lap sequences. But within 60 to go, Andre, this race is absolutely flying by. Probably one of the fastest races, I think. I mean, you've covered this league for years. I've covered them for probably 15, 20 races at this point. One of the fastest races as of now. That will very likely change that I think we've ever covered. And we are within the pit window, 40 laps in, so pit stops probably within the next 20 laps.
Yeah, really the only races that I can remember that have gone by quite this quickly were road courses, which is kind of to be expected, as you don't really have full course cautions, and you know, the lap count's a little bit lower to account for the longer lap times. But we'll see if they can continue this green flag pace. That'd be fine by me. Again, I'm going off of 3 hours of sleep. I showed up at the RC car track today expecting like a 3-hour race day, and then I found out, no, there's like 4 heats of buggies and like 3 heats of street stock and just a whole lot going on. So I'm a little bit tired, and you know, I could do with a quick race, but we'll see. I don't think anybody's more tired than these drivers, though, because I tell you what, they've not had a second to really relax, Corey. I mean, they've been in traffic the entire race, and you got to think they've been up on that wheel, tense, watching the mirror, watching their relative, just trying to make sure that they don't make any mistakes. I mean, you go 5 inches too low, 5 inches too high, you might be involved in a wreck, and somehow these guys have avoided that thus far, and that takes a lot of focus and a lot of energy.
Now, one thing about this style of racing that's kind of gone unsung, they talked about it more in the March race than in the July race last year, but the hardest spot really on this team, besides being the driver, is actually the spotter, because as a spotter, You're used to this racing at 2.5 miles. You're used to long straightaways. But now you're dealing with Talladega Daytona action, but you're dealing with it with 20-second shorter lap times, with a lot less space in between, you know, a lot less, everything is just condensed and happening so much faster, but you're seeing the same things. It actually makes the spotter's job exponentially harder, but of course from the driver's seat, when you are in this position, I always like to say at Daytona and Talladega, it gets kind of intensely boring, as I like to coin it, where you are kind of on the wheel, you can't mess up, as I think somebody just did there, the 20 of Devin Medeiros. So we haven't talked about it all. Our SSRL winner on our Monday series on the channel. You can't, and I'll pause that thought again as somebody is absolutely crawling there. Alex Russell, hopefully he makes it back to the pits. But to finally finish the thought, you can't just kind of cruise one-handed and text or think about what you're going to have for breakfast tomorrow like you can do at Daytona and Talladega. This is two hands on the wheel the entire race. And when you're doing it fully under green, like you said, you really don't get a break.
No, you really don't. It is very mentally draining, more so than physical. And I don't really know how the force feedback is in Atlanta. I've never really driven this track. I know at you know, Daytona and Talladega, the force feedback's kind of floaty. It's a little bit light, but if they got full-blown force feedback at this track like they would at old Atlanta, and they're this close in a pack, then it's not just mentally draining, it's going to be physically draining as well. So not an easy race for these guys, and I know that's why a lot of them weren't really looking forward to it. And I mean, I'm just going to be honest here, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and be like, oh yeah, everybody was really excited for New Atlanta. No, pretty much every driver I spoke to, other than Damaris, who won last year, basically said, yeah, no, this is, I'm not looking forward to this. And I think the added challenge is part of the reason why, but they've definitely lived up to the challenge. I mean, they have not really fallen victim to any of the key mistakes that I would expect. Really, the only thing that's happened that I would absolutely expect was that pit road entry mishap where Benefield caught a few drivers off guard and you saw that stack up. I expected that to happen at least once. I did not expect this race to be as clean as it's been. They've done a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we're still 50 to go. They still know that there is one more pit stop that will be required. And as you can see on the graphic with Travis Kranborg, 40 laps. We saw them go as high as about 65. And also what we saw in the first stage, well, rather the first sequence of green flag stops, is it got interrupted by a yellow flag. So that, if anything, will probably make these guys really stretch it to the last drop. Because they don't want to be caught out going a lap down, having to get a wave around, and then to kind of be off sequence. So I think you're going to see these guys stretch it, maybe at a lap 65, 70, whatever the range may be. I think you are going to kind of see that, as we do have a kind of a message. What happened to John Delaney? John Delaney, he died, akin to a Dale-style wreck in 3 and 4. But somehow the car still has enough pace that he is in the lead draft, which just boggles every piece of knowledge that we all have about life. But he is waiting on that caution to get back on the lead lap, and we do have a lapper that will throw that sequence off and try to dismember the Lucky Dog sequence. Actually, no, he won't. That is Jason Taylor, who is 3 laps down. He will funnel on the bottom of the track, and he will force everybody higher up, and this may be problematic.
So what actually happened?
Oh, here we go. Wobble bobble, squabbly lobble.
And they save it again. I don't know how they keep getting away with this, but they do. But anyways, what actually happened was John...
never mind. Whoa, 3 wide. Kevin Steele on the top. Big loosey-goosey.
That's not a good place to be when he's sliding up the corner a little ways. He is pinching that 7 as close to that wall as he can get him.
Oh, there we go. Kevin Steele, shake the coke.
What on earth was that?
That is a big one if we've ever seen it before.
That was unnecessary. That was entirely unnecessary. I need to see a replay of that, but if what I think just happened happens, good. I'm not gonna say it. It's not quite 11 o'clock yet.
You saw it better live than I did, and I'm the one producing the stream, but 76 of Heitman there in the middle, Stone behind. Oh, that.
Yeah, I mean, he just turned into 2 cars. I don't know what he thought was going to happen there.
Let's slow it down here with my very novice slowing down skills. Oh, I actually kind of got the timing relatively right here. So let's see, Heitman in there. Is any of this perceived as netcode? You could just kind of look at the lines on the back straightaway. Yeah, he just... Nope.
He just turned into him.
And Brandon Pierce. I mean, Brandon Pierce, has anything ever worked in his favor this year? In either series?
I mean, not really.
And as we can kind of see here from the long shot, the carnage that ensued, and we'll play it back in full speed here from the turn 3 and 4 cam.
I just want to point out, you know, Danfield steps away, right? Yep. Danfield steps away from chat. Race is perfectly clean and green. Everything's going fine. Dan comes back, and all hell breaks loose. This is entirely Dan's fault. I'm going to put it out there.
Yeah, we will see what you did, Dan. You ruined a perfectly clean race. Well, speaking of stepping away, I have yet to use the loo, as potentially you, as Andre as well. So we are going to step aside for a brief moment, go side by side, be back for the restart. So stay with us. We will be right back with you. When mics go hot unintentionally there. But either way, we are back for the restart here, as I have finished my granola bar. And coming off of corner number 4, it is going to be RJ Root leading this down. Blake Giglio to the outside. Hoytsma and Krayborg in the second row. Pace car has pulled in into the Geico restart zone, and let's get ready. 43 to go at Atlanta.
So hopefully cautions do not breed cautions as they did in D2, because I think this is just about the point in the race in D2 where things began to degrade in terms of racecraft. Hopefully we don't see a repeat of that. And so far, it's been a good restart. We're going to knock on wood right there. But RJ Root, he's been up front quite a bit tonight. Maybe not leading the most laps, but running second, third, right up there on the podium. And he has led a fair bit, 55 laps, which is, I think, maybe the second
here goes Giglio.
most. And there goes that aggressive attitude. Like I said, Blake is just one of those drivers. If he sees the gap, if he sees the window open up, he's going to shoot for it. And that is exactly what he did. Now, the problem that Blake is going to face here, doesn't have his teammates with him right now. They are separated in the running order. He's got the high lane, which is going to be an advantage, but kind of off on his own. He's got to work with Adam Benefiel now as they almost go 3 wide momentarily. Benefield's not a bad driver to have behind you as they get a little bit wonky all over the field through the quad oval. I feel like at this point we shouldn't be surprised when that happens. It's happened every lap for 220 laps, Corey, but it still gets me.
Yeah, and Adam Benefiel, you know, I always kind of alluded to him as the closer of sorts, and of course he finds himself up front when it matters. Of course, a little controversy surrounding him by the pit road incident that we had. It looks like Gitter, I thought he was gonna try to squeeze the meat in the sandwich there, but luckily he chose to just remain bred. Stays in that 6th spot. That is probably the worst one I have ever said. Chose to remain bred instead of putting the meat in the sandwich, but we will deal with that.
Like we've all had those days. You wake up, you're just not feeling it. You remain bred. You know, you
Wasn't
just lay
that
there.
actually a video game? I Am Bred, or was it a meme or something?
Oh my God, I think you're right.
Yeah, your goal was to get into the toaster without getting dirt all over you and crossing the room.
Yeah, that was like some very early YouTube Let's Play stuff right there. That was a while ago. But yeah, you're right. You're bringing back the suppressed memories.
And I will say, if Blake does not cause an incident here, then he is going to, you know, if you're a watcher of a viewer, is a better word, of PTR TV on our Monday night series, you'll know that we have a captain bump draft. Justin Boyles, he pushes the envelope whenever drafting comes into play, and I think Blake Giglio is, at least from the 100% perspective, I think he deserves the, actually, I guess maybe it'd be Hoytsma. Maybe flip a coin, but it'd be either way. One of your LMM Pepsi guys, they deserve the title of Captain Bump Draft for this series.
Yeah, they've not been pulling any punches, that's for sure. Definitely been aggressive on the bump drafts, and they're going to try to get out front if they can, but RJ doing a really good job playing some defense right now, and he's got Cranbourne behind him as well, who, you know, he's led some laps earlier in this event, and we know he's actually pretty good at playing defense. He was able to make that car really wide earlier when he was out front, so it's going to be difficult for Hoytsma and Giglio to get around him, especially when they're taking that preferred line. They're running that high line and kind of making sure that the door is not open. The only place that is open to make a pass is down low, and well, I don't think we've seen a single successful pass for the lead from that bottom lane, so to say that the odds of
Giglio squeezing
and
space
he
that
dives through
doesn't...
wide contact. Benefield, no, that's not Benefield. That is the 59 machine of
Chad Sanner.
What a save by Chad. That was impressive.
You know, I hesitate to go back. I mean, I don't have the multicam, unfortunately, but that was a very aggressive go high, go low on Giglio, trying to get the spot back. Now, he got it back at the detriment of Chad Sanner there. So, then speaking of Sanner, bad luck. That's Damaris going bye-byes. No back-to-back.
Is going to get caught out by the
first incident out of the evening. Now this gives me the opportunity to go back a little bit farther, and we can catch that move by or not. I was trying to go for Giglio's move, but so actually let me do that, because that move was definitely worth seeing again here. Giglio, you can see he's going high, going low, splits the middle. That's Sanner down to the inside right now. And then we'll keep the camera focused on Sanner here through 3 and 4. That's Damaris to his outside, Hoytsma and Stone behind. Now push to Gitter. Damaris to the outside, I believe that was. Yep. Damaris was there. And he was clearly right on the incident cap, and that was just the little bit to push the Yodely man over the edge. For those who watch The Price is Right.
There's always the joke whenever you're in an iRacing official session that it's always the guy that says, I'm just here for safety rating, that manages to finish with the worst safety rating. I just got to roast Damaris for a moment here. In Discord earlier today, he let the drivers know incident limit is 13. Govern yourself accordingly, or don't. Whatever. He put that in Discord, and now he is the first one to get pointed out.
Was the comma whatever actually a part of said conversation?
Yes, that is exactly how he typed it. So I'm
Be safe in turn 1. Don't push the envelope. You can't win it on the first lap, says the guy who destroys said field. And I think I had the last infield care centers sequence. We have Sean O'Brien Jr. Andre, if you want to have a word with him.
SOB, you got a copy?
Yeah, man.
Well, Sean, it was looking pretty good for Apex for a while there, and looked like the number 24 machine was pretty solid, as were the rest of your teammates' machines. But this race is definitely taking a turn over the last stage. Tell me a little bit about your race.
Yeah, this track sucks. You know, and you just
Agreed.
Yeah, and you just got people racing over their heads, taking it 3 wide for no reason, guys not listening to the admins, taking it 3 wide, drunk in the field. And, you know, you mess with the nuts, you're going to get squirreled, you know?
That's a good way of putting it.
That's a new one.
So, has the race, I mean, has it been kind of, from your perspective, has it been kind of chaotic all throughout, or has this just been something that's ramped up throughout the course of the night?
Honestly, you know, we were side by side the whole first stage, but it was kind of fine until the last 5 laps when everyone just turned their brains off. And then since then, it's just been shenanigans the whole race.
Shenanigans indeed. Well, you'll be happy to know we're going to a real racetrack relatively soon. If you want to consider it a real racetrack, we're going to COTA relatively soon, doing some road course racing. How you feeling about maybe going to a track that's not wide open?
I'm not a communist. I don't believe in right turns. But at least it's not just full throttle, Odie, Steve, we like what we're seeing shenanigans. Yeah, this track should just be torn down and made into like a short track or something that isn't this.
And we apologize to the fans for the language. Of course, shenanigans being
sorry.
Just a bridge too far. In fact, for that, Sean, we might have to kick you out of the booth. But we do thank you for your time.
I'm gonna get kicked out of the league.
Maybe. I mean, that's you got to really watch the S word there, buddy. But,
I know.
We thank you for your time, and hopefully the right turns treat you better than these left-hand turns.
God bless you, Andre.
All right. So
the fighting words we had in every single interview in D2 last night starting to rear into D1, and I am kind of looking forward to some more as we close in on 11 o'clock Eastern, where the sensors proverbially turn themselves down just a little bit. But Giglio on the accelerator in the Geico restart zone. Green flag in the air. That's Sander pulling to the inside of the back of the pack. Adam Benefiel has got himself into P2. We have Pat Gitter in third. We have that's Tracy in third in the 33. He's has himself up here. Dalton Mobley, last night's winner, up here. So end of the race near, 30 laps to go, and a lot of new names up front.
Yeah, Dalton has been riding in the back of the field pretty much all night long. We haven't talked about him, and there's a reason for that. He was pretty much riding just inside of the top 30, sometimes just outside of the top 30. Not being too aggressive, not really trying to get up front, but now I think push is coming to shove. We're getting to the end of this race. Only 30 laps remain. So maybe Dalton said, all right, it's time to take the 77 and try to replicate what we had last night. Now, one key difference between D2 and D1 here is that Dalton's teammate, Tanner Marty, is nowhere to be seen in this lead pack, at least not close enough to really aid him in any way, so he's kind of on his own. He's going to have to maybe do some negotiating with the other drivers, see if anybody is willing to work with them here.
Did you say Tanner Marty?
Yes, sir.
He is 16 laps, exited the race in 29th, so yeah, he's certainly nowhere to be found.
Not going to help the 77. Maybe moral support, but not a bump draft.
As you can see here, as we're coming to the nitty-gritty of tonight's race, as the 12 trying to, again, create a sandwich, and he will remain bread. Our front pack is consistent of 13 drivers, with Mark Paget being on the caboose there in the 0-2. We go back 2 seconds to RJ Root, who has the push from Alex Murray and Kevin Steele. Kevin Steele obviously still has a piece to play with after being involved in one of those recent incidents, but we'll see if that pack can convene in the next 27 laps, or if a yellow flag will take care of that for us.
Yeah, you know, obviously we would hope not to see a yellow flag, but with the way things have been going, wouldn't necessarily surprise me. Giglio is going to rocket to the lead on that outside, and the 0-7, his teammate is going to be down low. So again, this good strategy of having teammates in both lanes, not having to worry about throwing big blocks as your teammate's kind of acting as the blockade for you. Adam Benefield, though, he is second in line on the outside. So for all intents and purposes, he is second in the race as well, even though 0-7 gets a run, maybe takes second for just a moment through the corners. It is the 83 that pulls back out and takes P2 by himself. Once they get to the straightaways, through the quad oval, all that good stuff. Benefield was in chat. He said, "Hi, guys," and he's got kind of a habit of typing in chat while he's racing, but I think Benefield's feeling pretty confident whenever he's in chat and racing at the same time. You know, he's pretty comfortable behind the wheel. And Adam, you know, he's not, I wouldn't really classify him as specifically a super speedway racer, but he's a good all-arounder, and he's got that aggression, he's got that awareness that it does take to be very good at these super speedway races, and he's found success in the past. He's run up front at these kinds of races, and I'm not surprised to see him, like you said, kind of the closer, so to speak. Maybe not the driver who's going to be up front in stage 1 or stage 2, but tends to find his way towards the front later on, and that's exactly what he's done tonight.
I thought Patrick Gitter, he was running a middle line there through 3 and 4. Now that may have been by choice. That may have been to get some air on the nose as the handling starts to deteriorate. May have been to try to sandwich himself there. And you can see Benefield really starting to run a lower line there on Giglio. Giglio, again, he's trying to straddle that 2.5 lane to both pinch the bottom and try to kind of block the top, if you will. And it's really causing the drivers out on the outside lane to have to get very creative to try to benefit their own races and trying to make passes. So Giglio definitely doing a good job playing both defense and offense, but that's going to create an even heightened level of aggression from those behind him.
That is absolutely the case, and I think the aggression just all across the board is going to be going up, which is something to behold here. The 77 of Dalton Mobley, he is still on that high line. He's 4th in line up there, just waiting for an opportunity to maybe leapfrog a car or two, get a little bit closer to the front. Again, he knows what it takes to win here. He won D2 last night, and I mean, he did it in classic fashion. It wasn't like the win was kind of handed over to him. He took the lead, he used a little bit of teamwork, and did it the right way. So we'll see what he can do tonight as the bump draft's getting more and more intense, I would say, from that 83. He is shoving Blake Giglio down the straightaways, and the only thing he's not doing is pushing him through the corners like Lucas was earlier. But who knows? We get much further into this race, and maybe those corner bump drafts start to occur.
Now this is where I'm going to keep the onboard a little bit longer, because Benefield has been really, well, he doesn't do it that time because I'm focusing on it, but he has been trying to kind of turn about a half lane under Giglio from the center off, and whether that is to try to scare Giglio into a potential 3-wide situation, try to get air on the nose, not quite sure what the maneuver is, but he has been doing that center off quite a bit, as it looks like the top 3 have cleared, maybe even top 4, as Gitter has himself cleared of the inside lane, which does kind of open up the options here, because it puts them into a position where, you know, maybe it takes 2 or 3 guys to use the inside and try to pass Giglio, but Giglio's teammate of Hoytsma starting to surge on that inside lane, and you know Giglio is going to try his best to get that 07 back on his tail, as Benefield with the push through the quad oval here thought he was going to take a look, but remains in line.
Yeah, you know, I'm sure Blake does want to dip down and maybe get his teammate up there with him, but I don't think he can do that right now. I think if he goes down to the low line, what's going to happen is Benefield is going to take the lead on the high side, and then it's going to be virtually impossible to take it back from that low line. Even if Blake has his teammate right on his bumper, pushing him as hard as he possibly can, the high line's just too strong to give up. So he's probably thinking, you know, sorry, Lucas, you're trapped down there, but I can't really throw that life preserver down there because you're just going to pull me with you. So he's kind of got his hands tied right now. And Cameron Stone, on the other hand, this is a driver who is absolutely hungry for a win. If anybody in the field wants to win a race the most, it's got to be Cameron Stone. He's not won in a while. He is a former league champion, and it's been a little while since that 57 to scene victory lane. He's come oh so close a couple times, but things always seem to go awry at the very last second. So now, here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, he finds himself inside the top 10, almost inside the top 5 as they navigate some lap traffic, 3 wide out of the corner.
Sanner.
And I'm surprised Sanner's car is even capable of making laps, but I guess, again, the iRacing damage model strikes again. But yeah, you know, Cammy's in a good position right now in the catbird seat, but I think he's going to have to try to leapfrog up to the top, find an opening if he's going to make it happen, because this bottom lane just is not moving.
Yeah, it's going to be a matter of how long is Benefield going to stay content? Is he going to wait to the last possible moment? Is he going to have to strike a little bit earlier? Because what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to time the run to the inside and try to use that push from Hoytsbach, whoever it may be, surge him ahead of Giglio, and then try to clear and get back up the track. So it's about a 4-step process, and if any of those steps goes wrong, then he may find himself going from a positive position change to a negative position change. So that is kind of why a lot of these guys will be content to stay in line, because they know that the potential loss of making a move, if it backfires, may not be worth the potential 1 or 2 spots you could gain if the move works successfully.
Yeah, definitely got to weigh the risk versus reward in that situation, and maybe not super easy to calculate that in your head while you're trying to go around a track at 180 miles an hour, but you know, leave it up to the drivers, and we'll see exactly how it transpires. Again, they got a little bit squirrely through the quad over Cameron. Oh boy.
That is the 12 of Kremborg. Alex Murray in the 22. He has incidented out. So that is another one on the attrition sequence there. As let's cue up the replay of sorts. And that looks to be like it was a 3 wide gone bad. Replay on screen. You can see from the chopper cam. 12... Well, actually, that wasn't even a 3 wide. That was just a straight left-hand hook into, I believe that was Schofield.
Oh, man, they're showing us a black flag.
And that's what I have to say about that. That was a little aggressive. Of course, again, you know, we know everybody's getting aggressive at the end of this thing, but yeah. I don't know where he thought that run was necessarily going to go.
Yeah, there's a wall of cars. There's a lot of wrecks that we kind of can salvage as, well, he could have been trying this, he could have been thinking that, or, you know, maybe he saw this, maybe he saw that, but kind of hard to do that in this situation. And the pit road dance there doesn't look as though anybody bit the bait there. Well, at least up front anyways. There are a couple takers well on the field right now. Fuel shouldn't be a concern, as we are 30 some odd laps in, so fuel not a concern. I think that'll even be clear for green-white checkers. So at this point, let's just get a scope. Somehow Pepsi has gone 1-2, so LMM, that looks like that could work out for you if they can time and sequence this restart.
If they could time it right. I'm a little curious about what these drivers further back that did pit, that will be taking tires, can do in these last, I would say 10 laps when we go green, I think is what we're going to have. Tires matter, you know, not as much as old Atlanta, obviously, but they do matter a little bit. So who knows? And these guys do have the tires to play with. We didn't really see them too worried about taking them early on. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But there's the 0-2 working his way.
He's the first one on tires. He'll be in the 14th spot.
Which, you know, that's really not that far back at a track like Atlanta now. I mean, really, that's, what, row 7?
But
so
the problem is, you know, a track like Auto Club, where we saw Dustin Hall, who actually is not here today, as a matter of fact. We saw Dustin Hall stay out on tires when a bunch of guys pit from behind, and, you know, they were going 77 wide through 3 and 4 because the track, rest in peace, is wide enough for that. But this Atlanta track is not wide enough, so you're kind of just going to get gridlocked, or you're really going to have to hashtag sandwich mode and force that 3 wide. And, you know, when you do that, you're depending on your competitors to know how to react and have the tires and the handling ability to react properly. And if they can't, that 3 wide may end up on the back of the rollback.
So what you're saying is if you want to win this race, you have to not remain bred. You've got to be the meat.
You must be turkey, ham, roast beef, pastrami, or a combination of the above. Bacon, linguiça, sausage, bratwurst. You must become some form of carnivorous substance if you want to win this race.
Hold on. Are you telling me in the year of our Lord 2023 that a vegan or a vegetarian can't win this race?
Oh no! Oh no! No!
Hashtag cancel Corey.
No!
That's it. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna put this all over social media. Cancel Corey. So you just biased against the vegetarians.
I know the losing horn doesn't really transmit over Discord, but it did go over stream. You can use impossible meat as well, but you must be some form of meat and or fake meat if you want to win this race. And if you are not in front of all the other cars, remember, you will not be the leader. As
I said last week, you've got to pass the leader if you want to be the leader.
And pace car is in on the accelerator pedal, because that is the one that makes the car go forward, and the green flag is out with 11 laps to go.
And it looks like that outside is going to form up. The 16 jumps to his teammate there on the high line. Adam Benefield stuck on the bottom. Now, again, if this were Daytona or Talladega, I'd say Benefield's in a pretty good position spearheading that low line, but we've seen how difficult it can be to make any progress down there, so we'll have to see how that plays out. It's actually Benefield now no longer spearheading the bottom lane. The number 21 machine is going to dip down low. That is Patrick Gitter, I believe.
Nope, that is actually Devin Medeiros in the Air Force ride. He is now, haven't talked about him really all day, except in a couple bits and pieces here and there, but making a charge. But you got your LMM Pepsi cars up front. At what point do you throw teammate aside and go for the W, team owner?
Well, I think when it comes down to the white flag, it's, the gloves are off. You just have to try to take the win. It doesn't matter if they're your teammate. I think at that point, loyalties go out the window. Because, you've got an obligation to your team to, get as many points for them as possible. But you're a driver. You've got an obligation to yourself to get the win. And I don't think anybody would really have to consider whether or not the person in front of them is a teammate or not. But we'll have to see what they choose to do. We know in D2 that it didn't really actually play out like that.
John Delaney is in 6th place. Just so everybody knows, he's on the lead lap in 6th place after he died. I had to cut you off with a vengeance to make that point known.
Yeah, I didn't even notice he had crept back up into the top 10. I mean, he literally Gordon Smiley'd into the outside wall, and now he's back in the top 10. Most realistic simulator on the market, ladies and gentlemen.
Look at that number 6 stintanalyzer.com Camaro ZL1. No fast repairs in the series. They don't exist. But here he is in position, maybe not to win. I don't know if the arrow is 100%, but here comes nearly a 3 wide, but the 20 of Medeiros has the push from the 83 of Benefield, making the inside for the first time all day really seem relatively viable. We'll see if that 20 is trimmed out to have the pace to lead, but the 2 Pepsi cars up front trying to make that thing known, and Cam Stone in the outside just getting that push from John Delaney, 3rd in line on the top. He wants that win, as you talked about. How does he break up the Pepsi duo up front?
Well, I think he's got to do exactly what Blake Giglio did earlier in the race, and it's just force the 3 wide. Obviously, the best way to pass on this track is the outside lane. So, wait for them to move down just a little bit, whether it's because they're just kind of caterpillaring around the track or weaving. But the second that they open up the top even an inch, you just force your car in there. You force them down to that low line, and you take that position that way. But no, Cameron Stone's going to go the other way with it. Instead of forcing the high line, he's going to drop down to the bottom, and now he will take control of the low lane. A door slam to Blake Giglio, the 57, trying to take this lead. Both drivers going for the same real estate, but they're going to keep it going in the right direction. The LMM teammates on the high side, and then you've got Cameron Stone now on a less formed bottom lane. 3 wide behind him, Adam Benefield in the middle with Devin Medeiros. Oh my goodness, it is 3 wide for 2 rows. The number 12
4 wide
machine.
to the apron as Medeiros. That's not legal. He'll have to slow down and keep the spots from being a positive net gain. And he didn't really do that, so admin may have that to swallow over. But up front, it is still Giglio, Hoytsma, Delaney, and RJ Root. I cannot believe John Delaney is in a podium spot right now. And he is showing signs that he can still make moves. John Delaney, if he wins this race, I am just throwing out everything that I know about life right now. But here he comes to the inside. RJ Root in the 45. 2 laps to go at Atlanta.
Now these guys on the high lane, they can let them go down low. If they're going to try to make a move for the lead, let them make it down on the bottom. We know that it's not been very successful down there in the past, and so Cameron Stone tried to make that move, and well, now look at him. He dropped a few positions. Now the issue here is there's a little bit of contact between John Delaney and the 07.
Oh, but we stay green. Do we stay green? We made it. White flag. The race is going to be official in one form or another. Blake Giglio leading it. Teammate behind in the 07. RJ Root in the 45 behind. At what point do you throw the teammate out? Is there any move that you could even make right now? I guess that's what we'll have to find out. Benefield's going to throw it in the middle. 07 has the opportunity to go down low if he chooses to do so, but he's glued to the bumper of his teammate. Is he going to bump him? Is he going to do anything? Is he going to pull out on the quad oval? He's going to pull out. He's going to try to time it. Side draft. Watch out for the line. Photo finish. Who got it?
It was Blake Giglio. Wins at
Dead
Atlanta
tie.
in a photo finish with his teammate, the Pepsi Brigade. 1 and 2, ladies and gentlemen. What
and
finish.
They die.
Happens behind them. They're making the Geneva Convention look like the Geneva Suggestion, but it doesn't matter because Blake Giglio is a winner at Atlanta.
Yes, he is, and we'll kind of let him do his victory celebration here, and then we'll go and get that final finish there. I mean, I think Kevin Harvick showed a lot of people that you can wait till the very last second and try to time it perfectly. But unfortunately for Hoytsma, he probably timed it about an inch too late. Otherwise, it may have been a different result. He probably wishes he could have went down to that below the red line there, but unfortunately not the case. So let's go back here as the donuts being created by Giglio. We'll go back and kind of digest a lot of what we saw there on that last lap. Let's try to time this. I think this is a good point here. We'll do it from the chopper cam because it's just what we'll do. And up here, you can see not really much forming down low. John Delaney couldn't go to the inside. RJ Root with the push from the 12 of Kraneborg here. But at this point, it's a Pepsi on Pepsi race to the checkers. Race down to the inside. And you could see a bunch of guys going below the line there. Admin may have to watch that one. And let's try to get it at the stripe if I can. I'm not a... Oh, of course, it's going to slightly glitch on me. And, well, that's just as close as we're going to get it. Let's try it one more time for the sake of it. Boom.
Oh, man, it does not get much closer than that. I mean, look, I mean, that may be 2 inches.
Now, all right, I hate doing this. I hate bringing the iRacing UI on the screen in a broadcast, but in this instance, I have to because I don't have a photo finish cam because there's not usually much need for a photo finish cam, but I do know how to free cam like the best of them here. So we are just going to free cam this.
Just imagine somebody's running out on track with a camera right now. It's like a handheld.
Yeah, that is our finish. And as of course, the overlays show it as hundredths of a second, but in actuality, it was
crazier.
4 1,000ths of a second was the actual margin.
Well, and the reason that it actually is closer than it looks right there is because the transponders are in the back of the car. And when they got to the end of the stripe and the back of the cars were crossing, they were actually closer than that even. So that is one whale of a finish.
It was one whale, it was one shark, it was one octopus, it was one whatever you want to call it of an aquatic machinery, aquatic animal. But while our brains are slowly starting to fade off into oblivion here, let's go ahead and start the post-race show. And we'll do that by giving you your final race results here on the evening. Of course, Blake Giglio, in as close of a fashion as physically possible, will lead this one to the checkers over teammate Lucas Hoytsma. Delaney, John Delaney finished third. Like, what? RJ Root with the fourth, Adam Benefield fifth, Travis Craneborg in sixth, Cam Stone, Padgett, Ammon, and Gitter rounding out your top 10.
And outside of the top 10, Kevin Steele finishes P11. Devin Medeiros with a little bit of a hectic late race run brings it home P12. Dalton Mobley, he wins D2, brings it home in the Bird position, number 13. And Matt Dicciani in the number 4, he's going to be P14. Tracy in the 33, well, he's going to be 15th, and he's right in front of 16th, Ralph Hutchison. Jim Schofield, current leader for the Rookie of the Year, brings it home 17th. And Bird is going to be P18, a solid top 20 for the driver who finally qualified for a race for the first time since Daytona. And Patrick Muchet, an incident-filled night, but he brings it back to a top 20. And speaking of a top 20, rounding out 20th is going to be Brandon Pierce.
And then, I queued the results before everybody was done, so they didn't fully populate here, so... to get 21st through 30th, we have Robert Anderson 21st, Chris James 22nd, Chad Sanner 23rd. He was up there till he had some issues. Jason Taylor 24th, Drumhiller 25th. Everybody else significantly off pace and or out. Murray 26th, Hoffman 27th, Hickenbottom 28th. No back-to-back Atlanta wins for him. O'Brien and Marty round out your top 30. And quickly, just to finish this out, Heitman, Christopher, Gunningsman, Russell, Matt Long, Jeremy Miller, Ken Rong, Van de Sant, and Matt White. 39 cars here on the evening. Now, just due to the circumstances tonight, Andre, I kind of want to do our post-race show in reverse. We usually go 1, 2, 3. But just because of what happened to John Delaney, I want to go 3, 2, 1 here tonight. So we're going to go out of order with our interviews. John, you got a copy, brother?
I do.
You died. There is just no other way to say it. You died, and you are on the podium. Just how?
Well, that's the damage model for you. It's it kind of sucks. You know, I had 2 minutes of damage there, and I got probably everything except 20 seconds fixed, and I was, you know, in contention for the win. So, you know, it could definitely be improved, to say the least.
Yeah, that is the PC way to answer the question. There's a patch out on Tuesday. Maybe that is it's a part of it in there. But other than that, man, this as a whole not probably, compared to what we saw last night, this was clean as a whistle. You guys were pack formation, 3 wide, basically the entire race, and you were up there. Couldn't quite battle with those Pepsi cars up front. That inside lane really didn't go, but you still had yourself in good positions most of the night. Just kind of summarize what the night was and how the car drove overall.
Oh yeah, car was good. We were pretty neutral handling wise. We maybe if anything a little bit on the looser side. But the car handled good. There's speed there. It was just track position. Whenever I did wreck, I was, I don't know, somehow able to get right back up in the front. You know, you kind of just got to play your odds, and hopefully they work out. Because, I mean, that bottom line after 5 laps, it's dead. You just can't pass. And, you know, that middle top lane is where you want to be. It's just so hard to pass when you have a good group of guys working that middle lane. So, you know, being in the right spot at the right time is, you know, and just being lucky. It kind of helped me out there tonight. I've been pretty lucky all year. So, but yeah, I'm still kind of shocked I was able to recover from that wreck. That was definitely pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, at least the race ended up being realistic, because watching the live racing today with the Xfinity Series, the top was OP, so it was OP on iRacing, so I guess we got that going, and you ended up digging yourself out of a 6-foot grave and found yourself on the podium. That just shows the luck, skill, everything that you have going for you the past season and a half or so. But who do you want to give a shout out to for your podium here today at Atlanta?
Oh yeah, everyone at Apex Racing Designs, had a good time. We definitely wasn't our best showing this week, but we got to some decent points. I want to thank everyone at Lockdown Racing, McConey Setup Shops, Stint Analyzer, Sousa Web Designs, all my sponsors. Thank you guys in the booth for broadcasting, the admins, and everyone who raced tonight. Had a blast. So yeah, thank you.
All right, sounds good, man. We'll catch you on the twists and turns of COTA next week. Congrats.
Thank you.
Andre, we'll do things a little bit different this time. It's your team. They finished basically in a dead tie, so do the interview as you wish, but we're just going to make this like a group interview. It's your team. They finished in a dead tie, so have at it. Talk to them however you want to talk to them. All right, Lucas, Blake, you got a copy?
Yo.
Well, boys, that was one of the closest finishes in quite some time. 0.00 on the scoreboard. I believe technically 0.004 of a second. Man, oh man. Talk about teamwork. You guys were pretty much linked up for all 200 and some odd laps, and you boys did it. 1-2.
I'm going to leave that one to Lucas. We're going to let Lucas describe that one.
Man, I don't know how that even happened. The power of the Nitro Pepsi got us to the front, and shoo, man, there was some close moments. We didn't know what to do about tire strategy, but somehow it all worked out, man. That was so cool.
Yeah, the last few laps, there were some sketchy moments. You and Blake actually got kind of separated at times. It looked like, Lucas, you took a bit of a bump draft that kind of shot you up the track, and it kind of checked up the high line's momentum. How scary was it trying to defend that high line and having all those guys charging down low?
Well, we had John Delaney working with us for a better part of 40 laps there at the end, and somewhere in the middle, and we knew Blake had the prior knowledge that he would take the opportunity to go to the top if he could do it. So he was yelling at me the whole time the last 5 laps to block the top, and I'm sitting here trying to make sure nobody gets by us, and oh my, it was so chaotic.
Yeah, that it was. Now, Blake, obviously you being at the front of that train, just trying to hold on to the wheel and take those bump drafts from behind. Did you ever feel out of control, or did you feel pretty comfortable?
Oh, we were out of control. I'd say, I don't know. That's bad. I mean, ever since the start. I mean, I told him straight up. I said, we've thrown enough of these races. Like, if you gotta wreck me to push me, we gotta do what we gotta do. And he led up to it, kept pushing, and I felt like a dirt car out front. We just let it rip and get our chip, and ended up winning.
Absolutely. Well, it was again an amazing team performance, and again, one of the most exciting finishes we've seen in quite some time here in the league. Before we let you guys off the hook, I guess we'll start with you, Lucas, for your second place on the podium. Is there any shout outs or thank yous you'd like to make?
Shout out to everybody who helps us make this happen. Obviously you, Andre, owner of our team, and do a great job at building this great group of drivers. We had some really good teamwork there going in that race, and just want to shout out Low Drag Esports, CTC Racing, and yeah, that's it. All
right, Blake, anybody to shout out or thank for your race win?
Yeah, I'm gonna follow up what he said with you, everything you do, and you and Robert, and LM as a whole. Also shout out to CTC Racing, Low Drag Esports, M9 Setups, Jake Swanson, Shock Technology, Apex Auto Glass, everyone that's on the car, and everyone that helps us out.
All right, well, we're going to let you go celebrate with the team. Thank you for your time, guys, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Hell yeah, let's go.
All right, so that wraps up the broadcast, and we'll just kind of leave it on cam right here. Again, that was the finish right on screen there. Probably the best look I've had of it. You talked about, Andre, those rear transponders, and probably about 8 inches at most. So great job. I know you must be happy. I know you want to go to bed, but you're going to go to bed knowing that your team pulled off a whale of a finish here, and we'll see what they can do on the twists and turns in Austin next week.
Absolutely. New Atlanta, not my favorite track, but this is the best timeline. So, glad to see this race transpire, and glad that I was up here in the booth for this. But I'm definitely looking forward to some road course racing. I'm a big sucker for road courses, and Coda's not necessarily my favorite on the schedule, but even a bad road course is still quite a bit of fun. So that'll be entertaining to watch, and looking forward to it.
Yep, it'll be me and Andres. As far as plans have situated, back on 3 Wide TV next week. Be a little bit of a lighter week on PTR TV this week. We don't have the Monday series because they are off, but you can stay tuned for Thursday night with the Red Sox Racing League, and we'll be back here on Friday night for the D2 race, which to my knowledge should be at the very same circuit. So D2 is off this coming week, so very light week on the channel, but stay tuned to Thursday night for our next broadcast. But that's Corey and Andre signing out of the booth tonight. Have a great night, and we'll catch you next time.